I probably don't have it here.
Yeah, and
It's at home.
nice organization.
You got a copy, I'll get it to you now. I'll have a copy of the charter right here.
I don't know if you want to.
Yeah.
I have mine, I have my, actually, my, so I got my stuff back and then I put Cale on it. And refer to it, I know where it's at, or where it's all at, and then I'll say for retention.
One of these things
There is like a little plug-in thing, but I don't know if I'd like
That's
all
right.
the space this week.
I'll just plug it in right here. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, she's healing really fast,
Well, that's good.
but she's just trying to go along.
That's typical.
Just tired, warm,
That's Kim Green.
That's Adjournment company. Kim's in just
Sorry.
Oh, I see.
Whoever that is, right here, works.
I love Mary's household gardening tips.
Oh, yeah, Mary's.
I made some basil and yeah, cause I waited too long to harvest it and it had started to flower, so it's a little bitter.
It looks kind of like.
No.
I can
Looks
tell.
like it's a company name.
Yeah, it is. She's here for the city on house.
For what?
City on house.
That's how I feel about working on my back.
Here, every time I text her, I press send, it just always wants to go. I just text you just to make sure.
Okay, Yvonne, are you ready?
I sure
Recording in progress.
Okay, it's 6:02. I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. September 9th for the City Council chambers. Yvonne, can you call roll?
Yes. George,
Present.
Acuff.
Here.
Buckles,
Here.
McElroy.
Here.
Hebert. Hodgins.
Present.
Houston.
Present.
Okay, did we get any public comment forms? Okay. All right, we'll move right in to Civil West Engineering. Oh yeah, sorry, everybody turn on your mic. Tim, you can go ahead and come on up. Tim's here from Civil West. We've got 3 things to talk about.
Wait, Mayor, did you want to add anything to the agenda?
You're right, I do. Sorry. Sorry, Tim, 1 second. So I'm gonna add 2, so we have old business, I'm gonna add new business underneath that. So new business will go prior to work session topics. And I'm gonna add, what order do I wanna do this? I'm gonna do topic on term limits and then discussion on fluoride.
Under,
Well, new business, which isn't on there, but I'm adding it.
oh, and that's gonna be at the end?
No, it'll be after old business.
Okay,
So in between C and D.
okay.
I already forgot which word. Yeah, term, okay. Sorry, you know, it's a good one.
Do we have any handouts on that?
On fluoride?
What was the second?
Fluoride. Okay.
Is there any particular order you want to go
Cale. Mayor, do you want?
I think
order?
this order is okay. We just
Oh,
go
here,
over like
we'll
that.
give him this so that way he has, okay, thank you.
Which street we need first?
All right, sorry, Tim, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Tim Gross with Civil West Engineering for people who are remote. And I'm here to talk a little bit about a couple projects that we're working with the city on. One is the Bridge Street ADA improvements. I didn't bring any drawings of that, but Heidi did ask that we provide some cost estimates of the 3 projects that we're gonna be talking about tonight. That should be in your council packet, and it's the one that's sort of blue and gold.
I don't think we printed.
They're black and white.
We didn't print it in color.
We've got them, they're just in black and white.
So
Yeah.
it's black and gray.
This one?
See, it's black and gray like this one.
I think that's on page 1, is it for the
Yeah.
That
AEA?
should be the first one on your.
Okay. Yeah, that's page 1.
but it's bringing those up to ADA code, the estimated cost of $109,643. Are there any questions you have on that particular project? I don't think you bid that one, did you?
There's bids.
I'm sorry, Chris is working on that project, and so I didn't know where he got that from.
There's bids on
There were bids on.
Yvonne, I think there's a drawing of it on page 11.
Oh, thank you.
There are bids,
On page 9.
but the options, it was done in a way with options. And so tonight, the council is gonna talk about if they wanted any of the options, all of the options,
Okay,
like a mixed. I guess to give direction to the engineers,
okay.
so you can report back.
Do you have a drawing that you can pull up?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
We got our bids right there.
The bids are on
Sorry,
page,
I just didn't see the wording of it.
Those are page,
that's the wrong page, the bids are on,
those are page 9.
Okay, so where do you want me at?
11. We might go back and forth between that and page 11.
Can you scroll down, stop right on the alternates, right there?
Right there?
Go back a page.
Oh.
I just want to see how you went on the alternates.
Next page.
I'm sorry, you sent me the quote, but not that memo. Okay, so he has it broken down into 4 alternatives. First 2 are really, extra. They're not really necessarily associated with the ADA ramps themselves. You can add either one of those without the other. And then the other 2 alternatives, are really exactly the same. And I don't understand what the difference is between the 2.
We can scroll down to see.
One's at the
figures.
southwest corner, one's at the northwest corner.
Okay. It should be the next page. It's just-
Okay, so you want me to go to page 11?
Yeah, where there's. Yeah, where there's listed.
That's okay. That's not the text that we twisted into.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it'll help, I don't know.
That's in front of the hider.
Okay. Anybody got any questions for Tim?
Yeah, we kind of talked about the stamped concrete. Does it look like little like bricks like that, or is it, I guess I don't know what stamped concrete looks like. Does it look like that, or is it just kind of like a?
Yes, in fact, we had, in Newport, there's some areas where we actually had pavers that settled, where we replaced the pavers with stamped concrete that looks like brick. And as you're driving over, you can't even tell the difference. And it depends on how much indentation you do, and so we have to talk to the contractor a little bit, but usually what you'll do is, you'll wanna color the concrete ahead of time, instead of having somebody literally, the council paint like a stain on it. But that actually will wear off over time. And so if you use a colored concrete that's red or gray or whatever color you want, that's what you'll get. And it's just this, they'll pour the concrete just like they normally do. The color's mixed in, into the mixer truck, and, they'll actually put like a stamp on it and push it in. And that's literally all it is. It's done all the time. You've probably seen it a million times and didn't even know. So it does look really nice. And you can actually do rocks and stuff too. It gets a little bit more elaborate that way, but.
Ian had brought up maybe doing something special with it. I think that gained some traction at the last meeting, like something specific, looking for sharing in the concrete.
Something that, for instance, Portland stamps their manhole covers with roses. And so I was saying, potentially there's a way in which we could have a stamp or an inlay into the concrete that was unique to our city, that wouldn't be a large cost increase for us. That would be interesting and unique and add that kind of mystique to the city's value as we're improving things. Like if it's inexpensive, then we want to see if maybe we can add something like that.
I mean, I would say yes, it's inexpensive, because I would suggest that the city actually procure a stamp on your own, and you give it to the contractor to stamp it in when he's there. So I actually manufactured, or I had a fabricator manufacture fish sailboats, we had a big compass we made, and so if you walk around Newport and you look down at the pavement, you'll see these concrete stamps in the pavement. And so, if that's something you wanna do, I don't think it really affects how you choose one of these alternatives. If you talk to a local fabricator, have them bring something up, and then you, when the contractor's out there, you can stamp it wherever you want. And you can say anything you want, literally. Those are really easy, and the contractor's like, yeah, cool, grabs it, stamps it, and moves on, you know?
Okay, Roxy?
And then you can use that on another project, and we use those same stamps over and over and over again, because it's city owned.
Alright, Roxy?
Is figure 6 and figure 7 the two options that are funded already? Or can be funded?
Nothing is really funded.
I was reading the first paragraph where it says, as directed by the council staff, have engaged with city engineers to address pedestrian safety concerns at the intersection of Bridge Street and Harney Street. Funded. Between IGA and Country Garden. I'm getting the impression that that portion is funded. No.
I think it's just planned for.
I think he's just referencing where the sources of money's coming from, not necessarily that you have enough money.
I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out the way I read that was
Roxy,
not correct.
Roxy, what page is that on?
That's on page 7,
Oh, 7,
top.
8, okay.
very
Oh,
top,
okay.
the overview, first paragraph, first sentence.
I think that should not say funded, that should say founded or something, that's a typo.
Okay. I didn't know to find those two.
Yeah, found, maybe, is what it's supposed to be, I don't know on this one.
I was just wondering if it was
Maybe I was
funded.
just hopeful typing.
I didn't know.
Sorry about that.
Hopeful
Yeah.
typing.
So,
No, there's no.
Okay, any other questions on that?
Good catch,
That
Ross.
piece? If not, we'll look at Sheridan Road.
So, question on that, is the council can make a decision for an award, because we do have, any of these projects that go out for bid, there are timeframes that the council has to, for how long the bids are actually good for. And so, if the city does not have the resources to build a project right now, we would really like direction to just reject all bids. If it's something that you wanna do and there's alternatives you'd like to choose, we'd like to know what that is, so we can do a notice of intent to award. And then we can keep the project either going or stopped.
I mean, I know, as far as funding goes, I know I proposed using our ARPA funds, for it, but there's other projects we could use that, those other funds on. So I don't think we've decided the exact way to fund it yet. How much, when do we need to, I guess, give you an answer as far as whether or not we're gonna award it or pass?
What I'll do tomorrow is I'll go into the contract documents, I'll find the timeline on it and when the project was bid, and I can tell you a date. Cause without knowing those two things, I don't have the ability to tell you right now.
Okay. Okay.
And usually it's like 90 days, there's some period of time in there. But contractors are bidding projects, and so if they're sort of hanging out waiting, they don't wanna bid another project, they want to know one, so.
Okay, so,
Okay, let's move along. Sheridan Road, and so as you're aware, we, advertised the water portion of Sheridan Road. And, the low bid contractor was Jesse Rodriguez, Construction. And their bid came in. They were about 1.7 million, if I'm not mistaken. request from Heidi, after a visit, I believe, for undergrounding, to sort of flush those numbers out to find out what it would cost to do like everything. Now, you got it underground, then you can come in after that, and they pull all the conductors and set all the transformers, then you go to every building and you underground it. And that's what this represents. This is like the whole thing. And so you can see it's quite a bit, because, there's a little bit of, it's really very difficult to know how much it costs to underground any particular property, because we don't know what each property is like yet. So the last one that we did, we literally visited each and every property, and we went in and we made a plan up for every single house and every single business, and then each one of those was actually a bid item. And so that ranges probably from $10,000 to $25,000 on a property, and so the number that was used in the underground, I picked the high number. And so when you see that number that says individual property service conversion, that's a $25,000 number per unit. That's why that's, $1.7 million. If it was only 10,000, you could multiply that out, and it would be 670,000 then. So there's a big range in there because of that. That's a real unknown. And that would be something that not necessarily do when you do Sheridan Road itself, but it's something that you work toward after that. The infrastructure's in the ground, kind of come in after the fact and do that, because they don't necessarily happen at the same time. You actually have to have it in the ground while your above the ground stuff is still there, so you can switch them over.
So the individual property service conversion, that's total 1.6 billion that we're looking at.
Yeah, I think I included the email. I think I included the email. Well, I emailed you, and I guess I printed it out, but I have kind of a little bit of an explanation here about how that worked, and now I wish I had printed it out for your benefit. But it really goes back to kind of what I was saying, each property needs to be assessed individually. And so some properties, the meters actually recess in the building itself, and then you have to pop out the meter to be able to run an underground service on the outside of the building. That's always the goal, is to bring it outside the building. We don't want to go inside the building, and one of the sort of the arguments I had with PGE is that, it's going to be ridiculously expensive because you have to bring everything up to code. No, you bring it up to code as soon as you open up the building to do the work. If you bring in the power from outside and you're connecting to exactly the same meter box, you don't trigger electrical code for upgrading your panel. And so we have to be particular about how we do it to dodge the really expensive costs. And we've done it that way all the time. The electrical code in Newport is the same as the electrical code in Sheridan. And so as long as we're not going in and messing with the main panel, we're not obligated to upgrade that panel to the current building. So that's the goal. We would, on buildings where the power comes from overhead, we would simply terminate the conductors up there and cap it. And then you come in through the bottom of the existing meter, and the electric company would literally switch the wires from one to the other one that you just stuck in. And so that's how you stay away from that. But there's landscaping you're going under, there's sidewalks or driveways you're going under, there's all kinds of things that you have to dodge. Sometimes you have to go down half the block to be able to pick up out of a transformer or a switch gear where that particular house would be fed from. And then there's also telephone, cable television, and all the other things that go along with that. That's why it's so unknown.
So all the underground, so that's still about, including connections to people's houses and running the cable, is about 2.7.
Yes,
That's right, okay.
That's a low estimate or a high estimate, based on the $10,000 maybe per house?
So take that 2.7, add 30% and 17%. Because, the way we do these estimates, and it's difficult to be able to break it down any other way, is I can tell you how much it costs to put a stick pipe in from the contractor's perspective. But then you have to go and get easements, and you have to go and design it, and you have to go and costs are escalated 5 and 27% next year. That's what those extra percentages are. It's all these soft, non-consequential costs that you can't actually get a number for, and you add it on top of that. And so we still have a 30% contingency, which is pretty high. I would say this is a reasonably accurate number, but a year from now, the cost of inflation has adjusted that, or PGE has some extra costs that end up having to be added on top of that. can do with what we know at the moment, if that makes sense. Based on previous construction projects of a similar nature, that's how we do estimating.
So back in, you remember when Silvos first came and you kind of had the different options for us, and we picked whatever option was the most expensive. That one at the time, I believe, was 9.8. Did that number, did that include the, the contingency costs in that estimate, or do you?
Yeah, well, that included a 30% contingency, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, if we go back and you look at that, you can see it sort of broken down in the same fashion, where it's different categories, and then you look at, at the bottom, and it sort of breaks out this extra stuff. And, if you look at the very, very tippy top, that's where, typical contractor costs are that are percentage of construction are included. They're not necessarily living right here, they apply to everything. And so, mobilization on average is about 13% of the construction value as a whole. And so, if I know that my underground is gonna cost 2.7 million, I have to take 13% of that and add it on to mobilization. I apologize. I think there was some confusion in how this was set up. This is traditionally how bid forms are set up. Contractors are very aware of how that works. And so I did actually, I think, forward an email to you where I broke out, like really recently, like I took all the mobilization and everything and added it into each line. So you can see like what the total, what it would really cost if you just went out there and built a water line, You can't quite extract a single line out of this and expect that construction cost. You have to add in those soft costs too.
So Heidi, do we have money for this?
No.
Okay. So again, my suggestion for this
Easiest question of the night.
is instead of just saying, oh, we can't do it and move on, I think we have to do it. So I'm gonna bring up again.
Can I talk a little bit about Sheridan Road and just the water part of it? If that's
Sure,
okay?
yeah.
So, we put a construction document together, for constructing water on Sheridan Road from Bridge Street all the way to the end. And it was designed, to be a larger water line than was the original estimate that you guys had gotten 6 months ago. And the reason for that is because we were advancing through the master planning process. And we looked at the areas of future and potential development, and the fire flows that were necessary, the size of the pipe went up from 10 inch to 14 inch. And so, that's a pretty big jump. And so the material costs are much higher. If you buy a 10-inch valve, you can actually look at this, and it'll tell you the difference between them. And so a 10-inch valve, here, is $3,400. A 14-inch valve is $11,400.
Oh, I see.
And so, that's one area where we think we might be able to see some savings, because we could change the type of valve. But we designed it from Bridge Street to the end of Business 18, and it was intended to be able to provide water for future, multifamily development. And so one of my recommendations in the memo that I sent you is we could cut the project short, where we don't build, say, the last 3 blocks, and then you have the resources in-house. Or alternatively, how long have you been working on Sheridan Road? Been years and years and years, right? You have a shovel-ready project. If you want to do it in its entirety, reject all bids, adjust your budget for next year, the year after, and construct it then. Yes, it costs as you wait because of the cost of inflation. It's gone considerably down, because I think the increase in construction costs has dropped significantly percentage-wise year to year, because it was ridiculously high when we had COVID, and it was an unsustainable increase. And so what I'm seeing is that it's starting to drop. And so I would expect that you might see a 5% increase in the construction costs if you waited a year or two. But we have really good understanding what the value of this is now. We can change some things to reduce some of the costs, and you can put it in. Or you could use the funds that you have now. You can shorten up the project, put in what you need now so that development isn't delayed, and then when you do the rest of Sheridan Road, you pick it at the end and you finish the rest of it. That's also more than a viable option. You can literally cut blocks off of this thing at any point in time and stop it short. Because the project is just putting in the water and patching the road over. It's gonna look horrible, but it's gonna basically get us by until you do the road itself.
How is this gonna affect our loop that we're trying to do?
So the loop is close. terms of distance from Bridge Street. And so if you cut it short, it wouldn't affect that at all. In fact, it literally doesn't affect anything. That whole last bit, as you get out toward 18, is really for a long-term development out there. And so that you don't need it right at this moment. You could always put it in the future.
The loop is funded.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is I think you could do part of the project. And the contractor has been calling me every day. He's like, the council needs to make a decision, because I need to know if I need to go out and bid other projects. And so, we would like to give him some idea about what your expectations are and kind of a gist for where you want to take it. So there are some things that I have not negotiated with the contractor on that I could if you want me to. I sort of asked him about this because I didn't want to imply that we were going to award the project, but we have big 14-inch valves that are $11,500 a piece. And normally when you get to a 12-inch valve or larger, you use a different kind of valve. And so I would expect we probably see a savings of about $5,000 a valve, times whatever it is. That's not a huge amount, but it's something. And there's a couple of other things in there too that I think we can edit and save a little bit. But that would be, if we did a notice of intent to award to the contractor and you would engage with them with a contract, we would do a change order to eliminate the blocks that we don't want to do, and we would do a change order to change the materials as well, but ahead of time, we would negotiate what that would look like.
Do you think, how soon, so say we, because I know we only have bids for the water and sewer right now. How soon, say we did award the bid, could they start? I don't know, is there like a certain time of the year that's better for this? Because I know it's about to get, winter.
Doesn't really matter for this type of construction, but these valves are way out in terms of lead time.
Okay.
In fact, he couldn't even find the 14-inch butterfly valves. And so I would expect that you're gonna wait 12 weeks to get the valves, and always the valves, to get the valves in that you need to do the work. But they could build this in the winter time.
All right, Jim?
With these 14-inch valves, we're only doing a portion. What happens to the portion that's past the 14-inch valve? Is that still gonna be able to be?
Yeah, we would build that 14-inch line out, and then we just do a reducer and a coupler and connect into the line that's there. And so it would just be smaller. And, so I did a calculation, I think it was in my memo, that talks about how much we cut out with each block. Because we literally went through and sort of did a reverse takeoff. This is the materials in this block, this is the materials in that block. And we can see how far back we go, and I believe you have like a $40,000 cushion by reducing it 3 blocks. All right.
Ian, did you still have something? Yeah, Jim went, yeah.
I'm sorry, it escaped me. I was listening to you, to whatever you were saying, and my question escaped me, so.
We can come back. Liz?
So if you do the coupler and reduce the size of the valve, does that affect the water pressure in any way? For the people beyond that?
So you're not building to capacity yet. Are you worried about the water capacity or the sewer?
Water pressure?
So it won't be less than it is now.
Okay,
And so the design that we're trying to accomplish is when you have a commercial property, you're required to have 3,500 gallons a minute for 2 hours at 20 PSI. We actually designed it for 30 PSI because 20 PSI is like, you're illegal when you get below 20 PSI. And so it's designed to meet 3,500 gallons a minute at 30 PSI for 2 hours. That's the design that we put together. So if you stop it short, past there, you're probably not gonna get 3,500 gallons per minute. But you're not any less than you are now.
oh,
Does that make sense? You're not forced to upgrade past a certain point, even though you would want to upgrade past a certain point.
Heidi?
Okay, a couple of things. I think that the 14 is untypical size. And so either the 12 or the 16 is easier parts to get. So it could move it along.
That was probably something Jesse told you, right?
Well, that's something I've heard from others too, kind of like a lot of people in this industry. And so that's just a size that's not as easy to get a hold of. And so that's, I think, where you were going though, with the 12, is that it's cheaper and it can still fit, right?
the 12 rides the line of the 3,500 gallons per minute. That's why we went to a 14. And water fittings are sold in 2-inch increments.
And so the 16 though,
16 would be way overkill. And it wouldn't be cheaper.
would be, yeah.
So the valves are sold by weight. The fittings are sold by weight. I don't know why, well, you start getting into these great big gate valves like that, that's where this big number came from. If you actually get some cost on butterfly valves for 14-inch, they make them all the time. It's not a hugely normal, anytime you get about 12-inch, those are not normal on the shelf parts. They're always custom built. You know, if you buy 16-inch valves, your lead time is gonna be 20 weeks. And it's gonna be more expensive than the 14-inch valve because it has more material in it. I mean, that's just how it works. So it is an unusual size, and it's an unusual size because people aren't putting in 14 and 16-inch water mains all the time, if that makes any sense. Yes, 16 is very common. I mean, it's a very common size, but water systems are built in 2-inch increments. I don't know what else to say.
Rocky?
Plus, I wanted to ask Heidi, the looping water is funded.
Yeah, that is completely funded, by ARPA money that we got from Yale County.
Okay, so we're looking at doing the sewer at the same time.
So these are sort of different projects.
Okay.
In a sense, right, the water line, the water loop, I mean, all of that is to achieve a higher,
Pressure
water pressure.
and
Yes.
volume.
And yes, and now we're talking about the Sheridan Road, which is developing for underneath Sheridan Road and developing it for a long future. I mean, they've been at it for like 70 years, right, or something.
Yeah, the sewer was driven primarily because you didn't want to build Sheridan Road over the old sewer. It's leaking and you have infiltration and other things like that.
I just wondering, is it a project, the two projects, would it be cheaper to do them at the same time?
Not, I mean, it's always cheaper to have a bigger project than a smaller project because you have your mobilization and all of those things are sort of lumped together. But in this instance, people doing the sewer work, and people doing the water work are completely different people.
Okay, different people on different sides of the road?
Not necessarily, I mean, they would actually come in at different times too. They wouldn't work at the same time.
I'm just feeling and
Looking for,
The sewer stuff is all done in existing infrastructure, so you wouldn't have any digging in the sewer work. They would go down through an existing manhole and they would pull their slip line through that, and the worst thing that the sewer would have is traffic control arrangements that you need to make to get around where they're working at any particular time. And then when they go away, you never even knew they were there, like you never noticed anything, Gary would, you know, because there's all kinds of I going on Sheridan Road right now, and so it fixes all that stuff. Yeah.
Great. Ian?
so,
Did you-
yeah, no, I'm talking out loud, I'm sorry.
Okay. As far as it goes with the Stony Mountain addition, if we were to have that amount of water and we were to desire to tie into Perrydale's water system in the future, would this be the water line that we would be using? Because in that case, I would like to know, should we put in the 16-inch if that's the case? Or is the 14-inch adequate for feeding a whole other water system? I don't know the answer to that question.
We,
I don't know the answer to that question.
we'd have to see, I imagine we'd have to see where their pipes are, because as far as I know, the closest one is up, past bridge over here, like that's close. I'm not sure what water system like Logan Mary Road's on. If they are, maybe that is somewhat close, but.
the path that the water would flow is not off of Sheridan Road.
Okay.
But the sewer line is, so the water line, what we're working on with that is essentially a loop, because you don't want it to dead end. It's coming, out of the plant, going down the road, and then Sheridan stops right there, right? So we're trying to loop that. But what the capacity question really is too is about sewer. So that's like a main thoroughfare for the sewer on this half of the city to get out and get
right there.
to the treatment plant,
Okay.
right? I don't even know.
I mean, the sewer going down Sheridan Road is the main sewer going to the plant.
But I mean, I don't even know the
Other than the
size.
stuff that shoots across the river, you know.
Let's not say shoots
across.
But
From the south side of town, that's where the main sewer
But
comes.
I don't even know the size of the sewer pipe now in Sheridan Road, but it is a huge,
I think it goes from a 15 to a 10
So that's good to know that we might be able to save some cost, but I'm sure it's still gonna be.
So I'm not
15
allowed
million.
to negotiate with the contractor until you do a notice of potential award, because it's unfair for the other contractors to negotiate with somebody that you don't intend to do a contract with. So you can do a notice of intent to award and not actually award it. You can change your mind because it basically gives me the authority to go in and negotiate with that contractor to get a price that you're able to afford.
So we could do an intent to award even though we don't have the money.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly correct. And then, the thing is if you look at the contract documents and you do a notice of intent to award, it gives you the authority to negotiate with the low bidder. I think I'm correct on this, right? It gives you the authority to negotiate with the low bidder. In fair practice, the other bidders know that you're gonna do this. And, if you can't come to an agreement with them, you could actually toss them and go to the next bidder, which is more expensive and it really doesn't serve your purposes. But if he decided he doesn't wanna cut out half the project that the next person would, he's not the low bidder anymore. And I don't know if you noticed in the alternates, if you changed how you do your alternates, if you decide not to do the sewer, he's not the low bidder anymore.
Yeah.
He's the low bidder because he had the sewer that was lower. And so if you decide to toss the sewer, he's not your low bidder. So I would need to know if you intend to not have the sewer, because then we would actually do a notice of potential award of somebody else.
So I think we're gonna tear it up. Let's just do everything. And I'd also like to just do it once instead of, I understand it might be cheaper to, well, actually, it sounds like it might. In the long run, it might not be cheaper if we do it in sections.
The sewer wouldn't really make a difference at all. Again, it's a totally separate type of contractor that does a separate type of work. You could bid it again and the cost of the sewer would probably be almost exactly the same as it is now. But it's my understanding, you have the funds for the sewer to do the sewer work. That was not the issue. It was the water work that you were short on.
Water, electrical, street.
So Mayor would like to see all of Sheridan Road. He's trying to ask everybody if you wanna try to figure out funding for the whole shebang. Right?
Right.
So if I was gonna do one project on Sheridan Road, I would do the sewer, just because it makes the biggest difference in your wastewater system.
Yeah.
And then I would extend the water lines necessary to be able to support the multifamily. After that, it's just, you're building for the future. Put in what you need for what you're doing right now, and then you have time to build the rest of the stuff. And so we can cut it short, really wherever you want to be able to provide the looping that's necessary.
Would that include repaving the whole street?
Not at this time. This time is just putting in water line.
Because that's, I mean, that's
That could be the,
new sewer and water does sound great, but I've driven that road a lot and it's not great either, so that's.
Let's just say the patching that they're gonna do in the ditch is gonna be better than the road is right now, but it's only gonna be where the ditch line is.
So I think Tim brings up a good point, which is we can do through necessary sewer work without any changes to the road. So if we were to start somewhere, we really should start with the sewer. And because of the conditions that are going on, Tim and I can do some work with the state and see if there's some opportunities for that between the two of us. So we could start with that, but then that would be removed out of that notice of award? No, we would still continue with that. How does that work if they just wanna do sewer for now?
I believe you have the sewer funds, don't you?
Alternative, yeah, but awarding the bid for the project.
Oh, so we would do a notice of intent to award, intending to do the sewer work. And then we would negotiate with them to reduce the scope of work and the water. And then if we get to a point where we are able to negotiate and have the funds, that you have the funds to be able to build what they're willing to build, then you do a notice of award.
But what if we just wanted to do sewer for now?
If you just wanna do the sewer, they
Sewer's listed
probably,
as an alternative only, so we'd have to go back up to bid, right?
yeah, but it's really easy to bid, slip lining.
Yeah, that's.
If you had to go out and rebid that all on its own, there's literally no drawings to it other than a map showing where they're gonna go in and the bid documents. And so that's a really easy thing to rebid if you don't wanna do the thing combined right now. But,
And I do recommend that the council take care of that sooner than later because of the conditions with it and the low amount of intrusive work that it really causes besides traffic disruption. And that part, the city already does have funds to continue in its budget, but it also is also easier because of the condition to get some outside funding to bring it in.
So even though we do have funding in the budget right now, it could be covered instead by,
I don't know about how much covered, but there's some
a
funding.
portion could be
So,
It was,
so I was under the understanding when I read the packet that we are in an either or situation. We either choose the ADA ramps or we choose Sheridan Road, right? Am I correct?
no,
We're not choosing one or the other.
we can do both. We're just awarding bids. Essentially, the ADA one has bids and then we can award the bids. Sheridan Road only has, water and sewer bids and we can award those as well. But they're not like the same, they're independent of each other. So we can approve both, decline both, approve Ron, decline one. They're not.
But financially, that was my understanding, that we would choose one or the other because of the financial situation.
I think so, the ADA, that, I believe the funding for that would come out of our streets fund. So really what happens then is, we award that, then we have less money in the streets fund to pave Sheridan Road, but I don't believe we have enough in the street fund to pave Sheridan Road.
No.
So,
You got all of that correct.
we can, I mean, the ADA one is definitely less expensive than Sheridan Road. But, I believe we can still award both. We just don't have the funding for both.
If you wanted to save the funds paving Sheridan Road, you're gonna have to roll those funds over for several years until you actually do the project. That's the implication, because it's not gonna get paid soon.
Sheridan Road is going to require some other financial outside the city's regular amount that it gets for tax, or for gas tax money. That is like, you would be saving for, I don't even know how many years and always chasing inflation. We may only really get in the amount to cover inflation. Sorry.
And that's just the street portion. The
Yeah,
other
that's what I'm talking
portions,
about.
the other portions, I believe we'd have to save for that as well.
The water would be a hardship. It could be a year, it would be definitely the next year before it could be completely funded. There are all kinds of loans that are out there for cities that are low interest loans that are offered, very like 1.5%.
One.
2, 1.
Yeah, I talked
Good
about
job.
it. Yeah. Roxy?
That's what I was wanting to talk about was, now that we're maybe thinking about some options here. I know there's some grants that are available, and now that we have this engineering report, we can apply for those grants, and we can apply for loans, and we've got something to work with. Before, we didn't have anything to go with, we just want money. Well, now they know what we want it for, and it will be a doable thing in my opinion. It won't be done overnight, but, I think this is the direction we need to take. It's plausible, it's doable, but it's gonna take us some time, but we have to get started on it. We can't keep talking about it.
And I think at the last council meeting, we even discussed about getting like funding options. Heidi presenting some funding options, and I think the plan was at the regular meeting to have those ready, but we can see what grants there are. I mean, we've looked at grants for the undergrounding part. That's not, from what Heidi's told me, that's not really like a rich area for grant money. It's like, it's not, you don't really get grants for that. The streets part, maybe, but go ahead, Tim.
I have a thought on the water project itself. And so, water funds are readily available. Loans are actually quick turnaround on those. And so one option you could do with a notice of intent to award, I can negotiate with the contractor to abbreviate the scope of the project, but leave the rest of it that we add back in if you're able to get a loan to be able to do the whole thing. I actually think you probably have the loan secured before they even started work. But that's an option if you're willing to do that, because then you're only borrowing the little bit you don't have, which is not actually a huge amount. And provide for future development down Sheridan Road, where most of your actual development property is. So that's another alternative that you can consider.
And that would just be, so then we would have sewer and water, and then the road would still be
then you can look at other financing programs for doing that. It's hard to find grants for streets, it really, really is. What you're doing is you're stealing from Peter to pay Paul, right? So a project that you would normally pay for through, say your water fund or something, you're maybe able to get a grant for, and you offset it and you spend the money elsewhere. I mean, you have to do these little shifting around things. Stormwater projects, you can get funding for stormwater projects, and they will pay for the street over the pipe that you replace. And so since we're doing all of the stormwater in Sheridan Road, you could get an SRF loan, that they call their sponsorship option. And what it is a low interest loan again, 1.5%, something like that. And you pair a wastewater project with a stormwater project. And they basically give you such a good interest rate, it pays for the stormwater project. But the thing is it'll allow you to finish the street over the top of it. So curbs and all the storm drain in it are all storm drain. That's straight up. But you gotta dig up the whole road to do it, and they will allow you to pay for the road on top of it. So that's the methods that we've taken before, but it's still a loan program. But it is a very good loan program. And it's, there's a really great term on that, where you don't even pay on the loan until such time as the project is completely done. And so there is interest accruing over time, but you're only borrowing the money as you need it. And so it's a good program.
So, does anybody have any thoughts about awarding bids right now, or would you like to wait till next Monday and we can share some funding options? Lucy?
Did you ever talk to ODOT about that in a collector street?
No, I have not, I apologize.
It's okay, because I think that that's kind of a key factor in this. And then I know that, I don't know about you guys, but you know, I know that Sheridan Road's ugly, blah, blah, blah. And Yam Hill Street was pretty ugly, blah, 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 and I know that, I just saw him walk back in the room, Gary. But you know what, that chip seal looks pretty good, and it feels pretty good on the tires of my car, a lot better than it did the other way. And I would have to guess maybe Yam Hill Street was as bad as Sheridan Road in some places, because I go home that way all the time. And is that a possible, feasible, temporary fix versus doing the really smashy? How long does that chip seal last, Gary?
And the people I've talked to are about 15 to 20, as long as you take care and keep up on the seal on it.
Because, I mean, that's a great improvement. I mean, I drive that road, you know, 8 times a day. And I didn't know what was going on when I saw the gravel, so I just stayed off it for like, you know, a week. But then I saw the goop and I stayed off it for a few more days. But now, everybody else has run over it. It's pretty smooth, and it's actually pretty nice. I mean, it's not paved, but I'm just wondering, the difference has gotta be a lot of dollars difference for a smooth over, while you're trying to either figure out what you're wanting to get, trying to, you know, you can't make everybody happy all the time, but you can try to do something. And then if they're gonna keep tearing it up, there's nothing worse. I can't stand on a nice paved road, and then they decide, oh, let's put in gas, and they tear it up, and I'm thinking, wow, why did you think that in the first place? And it kind of sounds you're wanting to do this in steps. So if you did it in the steps and just use that method, it wasn't be such a tearjerker, you know, as putting out all that money for a really nice street and then tearing it up later on.
It's not uncommon to chip seal right after you do an infrastructure improvement, because it sort of blends it all together, and it seals up all the cracks, so it's not popping out in the winter time from the frost. So it is a helpful improvement, and it's pretty cheap.
I mean, what is it? I mean, roughly percentage versus, you know, the nice one.
Oh, it's way cheaper.
Like 50%, 75%?
Literally, they come in a day and chip seal the whole road, and I would say, I don't even know if I can give a percentage. It's not even in the same ballpark as
I know, but that's what's gonna make me feel good about suggesting that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So,
don't think it's a bad idea.
you
I
know,
mean, it's
just,
usually meant as a pavement preservative.
it's a better Band-Aid than just looking and bitching, you know?
And so if you're worried about the road coming apart, which is kind of what it's doing, it's potholing probably from some of the holes in the sewer. It's potholing because it's been overlaid a bunch of times and it's peeling out between the two layers, notice that. There's cracks in it, things like that, and so with a chip seal, normally what would happen is Gary would go in and he'd fill in all the potholes, and then come and chip seal over it, and that oil fills in all the cracks. And then the rock sort of bridges that, and then you get a nice decent driving surface until you're ready to do something else.
So the sewer is the biggest eater of streets then?
The sewer and the storm drain are what's causing that road bust up.
So, I mean, so actually doing the sewer sounds like that would be a really good first step, and the water to a certain place would be a good second step, and then chip sealing it would be a nice,
Band-Aid, so you
Band-Aid.
could do the rest.
yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, if it's a Band-Aid though, we would
Nice
spend
looking
money,
Band-Aid.
spend money to Band-Aid it, but we'd still have to redo the road, is that right?
Yeah,
Well,
but
that's up to you, but, I mean, it's, the reality of the cost of this project is such that it's gonna take you several years to get the financing together, and in the meantime, the chip seal will sort of keep the public at bay and make a better riding surface until you're ready to do the full construction.
And what was that thing called, the kind of bid when you don't have the money, but you just kind of ask them? Intent. So that's just kind of like wishful thinking, but isn't it also true that I hear in another meeting that sometimes during the summers, like everybody's busy and everybody's charging top dollar, come winter time, people are a little bit not so picky and because they're wanting to keep their families fed?
I would bid the project in January again. So, I mean, I really wanna come out of this either with a notice of intent to work so I can negotiate or reject all bids. And so either one will be fine. You could pull the sewer part out of it and bid that, but they would rather do that in the dry weather too. And so what I suggest we do is you just do a reject all bids, we bid it in January, when everybody's looking for work. They'll probably get better prices then just because of the time of year. And it gives you some time to get some additional financing in place. Otherwise, we do a notice of intent to award now, we negotiate it back, and then you have to build the rest of it some other time. It's kind of a choice about whether you want to do it part of it now or all of it later.
But you have to get a better bid in January.
You're absolutely gonna get a better bid in January. Because this is the tough time, here, everybody's doing the work. That's why it's hard for us to even get the plans out, because we're like building stuff. Everybody's building stuff, and they're trying to get it done before the winter. And so, yeah, you get to January and people are hungry.
Super hungry.
Alright, Heidi?
In the meantime, we can ask, we can get some quotes about the chip sealing if you'd like to.
Okay. And as far as, waiting for funding too, I've also, I might be able to just get one loan from business organ and it'll cover everything, and we wouldn't have to wait. But that's an option we can look into and come back with, but, if we do want to reject or whatever we want to do, we can do that now, or we can, so wait till next Monday.
But I think important part of that puzzle too is, and I keep going back to that, because that's what I do, is that ODOT on that Collector Street thing, and then that would be because if I've got that down right, they take care of their streets.
Kim, do you know anything about that?
Means classification as a collector.
Yeah.
That's only when you're on TSP, unless it's being used. There are roads that are designated for you to be able to use your gas tax funds on, and based on what the transportation plan says. But that's just money you already are getting. That makes any sense. It just allows you to spend it on that road as opposed to spending it on another road.
But back in the day, that was a collector coming into Sheridan before.
It's a collector now.
Well,
I
they
think
said it
what
was
you're thinking
not
is
quite
minor
right.
arterial. I mean, the classification is such that a collector road is basically transporting vehicles in and out to go to other neighborhoods. And so there's a bunch of people that live on Sheridan Road, but people drive it all the time to get downtown. And so that's by definition a collector road. It's easy to classify as a collector road. But I don't know what that does. I don't know how it changes your funding scenario, honestly.
I guess it's more important that, ODOT had it as, kind of like West Main Street, Main Street.
She believes that there's funding from ODOT because they have a certain relationship to the road. But
That was what a fellow said that came to our council meeting too, so that was where I got that from.
I think the only ones that I'm familiar with are what they call state aid streets, and that is where they consider it in the amount that you get for your street allotment from the gas taxes. So if you can get it classified, it increases your overall gas tax amount, and that was one of the roads you can spend it on.
Heidi?
shoot, now I feel like Ian. Oh, I know what it is. I am going to the infrastructure summit in a couple weeks too, and what you learn there is The only thing that we're really in a hurry is to achieve that fire, or the pressure, and that project is already happening, water boring, or, the looping.
Yeah, underneath the railroad track, that's a separate sort of thing, we're connecting to
And
that.
that one is most important, I would say. And that's already.
Is that project already started, did you say?
It's moving forward, it's taking a long time for the two railroad entities to do the review.
It's being done as part of that development, that developer designed it, and it's just a directional bore underneath the railroad tracks. They're doing their storm drain and the water line that will connect it to Sheridan Road. Kind of separate from this, but will ultimately connect to that.
We need that to help this looping project.
Looping itself will help raise the pressure, because it doesn't dead end, it has somewhere to like keep going, like circulate around.
Yeah, the entire water system is all connected. If I move around someplace over here, it'll affect something over there.
Yeah.
You know, so then by them drilling across the railroad track, it provides an alternate route for water to be able to come to Sheridan Road, which is good.
Alright. Yeah, if somebody wants to make a motion to, reject bids, and then we can rebid in January, we can do that now. Rocky?
I make a motion that we reject the bid and bid it in January. Name of the project.
That's probably
Um,
good.
Make a motion that we reject all bids, rebid in January, the Sheridan Road, improvement, the preliminary cost. As presented or. For now.
First,
Second.
okay, there's first and a second, there's any discussion on that? Okay, alright, we go to vote then, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous, we'll reject the bids. Okay. So now we've got, the Hebert Memorial Plaza.
Sorry, Mayor, don't forget that, and before we let him go, your old business, Chris is also waiting for the council to do the ADA improvements on Bridge Street, so that intersection.
Okay, well, before we move to item 3, then do we want to do anything with ADA? Do we want to put more questions? Do we want to word that? I mean,
Do you wanna talk about what you thought about for funding?
part of my idea was, and I guess depending on what we wanna do on Sheridan Road, is we do still have the ARPA funds. My thought was that we could use the ARPA funds for Bridge Street as well as some of, our worst, or really, really bad roads that we have. And we have that funding until October 2025. And then at that point we lose it. It would help us with Sheridan Road if we wanted to use it for the streets, although if we wanted to redo the whole street, which I think would be the right thing to do, that'd be $4 million, we have about 1.3 in ARPA money, so. Well, and the road wouldn't be ready yet, that's right, it wouldn't be ready to pave, so.
Yeah, but you can use it for the rest of the water there, for the rest of the water too. So I think one of the things that Mayor and I have talked about is the ADA improvements for Bridge Street, using the 1.3 of the ARPA money for Bridge Street and for the Hebert Plaza, and maybe for the remaining of the water too. Or using it instead of remaining of the water, having the street pavement condition report completed, and then picking some of the roads from that list and doing some stuff.
Probably have some sidewalks too, or is that allowed?
Yeah, but I think it should be allowed with ARPA.
Will the water be done in time before the deadline of the October?
You could do some milling in place really fast and improve some roads with that.
Yeah.
Didn't you say before that you could have the bids in January because the funds have to use by October, but they don't have to be done, they just have to be awarded?
Yes.
Is that correct? Councilor?
Solidly awarded.
So if and just kind of leave the street, you know, if you do the chip thing, I mean, you know, and just wait on that, but you did the sewer and the water and worked on that, I'm sure that those funds could be used up in there with the balance not being as overwhelming to the city.
Roxy?
Does the water project funds qualify for the ARPA requirements?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think you can really spend it on almost any infrastructure project, right?
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay, studies or anything. Economic
That's,
development.
that's what I'm for.
But bidding in January would definitely fall under the court. I mean, you do an award and a contract execution long before October.
Okay. Do we wanna make a decision on the Bridge Street ADA improvements, or do you wanna hear about, Hebert Plaza? Ian?
Can we just finish the presentations?
Yeah, for sure. So that'd be Hebert next.
Okay, so, in your packet, hopefully you have the cost estimates that I did and the drawings. Hebert, Memorial Plaza, the scope of work is migrating somewhat from what we started. The original engineering scope of work was literally just to build a retaining wall to protect the existing footings for the bridge. And it has since changed to building a retaining wall that will become the footings for the plaza. And also construct a sidewalk behind it, and then, an access to the river that people can bring boats down, and access point to the river. Part of the reason that was added was that when we added the sidewalk, we needed to bring and grade it so that it could meet ADA, accessible requirements. And to do that, we had to move dirt. As soon as we move dirt, we can't bring dirt into the floodplain, without having an adverse impact. So we wanted to have a net zero impact of earthwork. And so we could take dirt from one place and move dirt to another place, and you're not moving in dirt, you're just moving the dirt someplace else. And so if you look at that, see the green and red on that sheet there, it talks about how much dirt is being moved. And I think we call out 37 yards or something like that. We tried to balance it just right. And the red is where you're digging, the green is where you're embanking. And so the sidewalk curves from a future parking lot. We designed it in anticipation of that area being finished at some level, even though it doesn't have to be for this improvement. There ends up being a little bit of gravel that we have to embank along that south part there. But then the sidewalk will go down and under the bridge and connect into where the stairs are by the grocery store. And it will run basically behind a concrete retaining wall that will be completely buried in the ground. And the only purpose of that concrete retaining wall is to get that concrete below the floodplain footing, so it's not undermining the footings on the deck. And so it's like 5 feet deep with a spread footing, and then it just completely gets buried. So when the spring floods come, it can wash all it wants to, and it's never gonna get below the footing. That's the only purpose for that. And then the first footings on the plaza will be removed, and that first beam will be removed. They can do all of their things, and then they'll come back and set those posts on the new wall. Not a part of this project, but as part of doing the decking on the bridge. And we'll salvage the existing glue laminated beam that's there. We'll salvage all the brackets, they'll just have to get some new posts. Because the posts are right now buried inside the concrete footings that are there. And then there's just an asphalt, I think it's 20 feet wide, so you could drive a car down if you choose. And it sort of follows an access that goes down underneath the power lines down to the river. And it's pretty steep, but it's the flattest spot I can find. It dropped down the river pretty fast, and I couldn't make it go straight, because then it was undrivable. And so that's why it has a bit of a curve to it, because it makes it longer, and it gets my grade to be a little bit more reasonable. It's about 17%, which is not insane, it's just steep. Underneath the bridge itself, now Bridge Street Bridge, there's riprap. And the riprap is like 2-foot boulders basically, and the idea of that riprap is put there by the county or the state, I don't know which, to protect that from erosion when the floodwaters come up and go down. And so when the sidewalk goes under there, we do show a culvert that'll allow the floodwater to go underneath the sidewalk without necessarily overtopping it. And then the contractor will simply replace all of those boulders on either side of the sidewalk that they put in there. They'll just basically push them aside, bring them up to connect to the thing again. And it'll look very much like it does now, except a sidewalk down the middle of it.
So, all this that we're looking at, that's just, this is the cost estimate, it hasn't been bid out yet. Is that
It's
correct?
not been bid. I did a cost estimate based on, other projects of a similar nature. In fact, we did a project in Newport this spring, and these unit prices are from that.
I just was thinking, sitting here, about the ARPA money, you know, you could also ask him to figure out the cost to redo the parking lot at the Morgan Street and possibly even putting in a restroom back there, like we've talked about for the boat ramp. So really getting geared up for all of that.
Incidentally, I already have it designed. 'Cause I
Yeah.
needed to do it to be able to put the sidewalk in there, so it wouldn't take much to advance that. But I would probably do that project later, so it doesn't break this out. Because this has gotten break out a little bit, and so everything that happened on the plaza itself can't happen until you put that wall in.
Yes. So I would say I'm gonna guess, this is a guess, but it seems that there would be enough money with the ARPA to do the ADA sidewalks and to do the Hebert Plaza, this design, the parking lot, most likely a restroom, and redoing the planks of the plaza. The 1.3.
Yeah, and the planks on the plaza
That'd be
itself,
huge.
there's some unknowns in this. It's pretty simple to replace the planks, but one thing that Ernie wanted was, there's a sidewalk that runs along, you can see the straight line by the green there, and that's the edge of the parking lot, and there's a sidewalk there. And it goes to the end of the existing building, it just stops. Because I don't know who owns it, I don't know how that building works there, so there's a little bit more design that needs to go in there before it can actually connect to the plaza. Because they wanted a ramp going to that sidewalk, so you could walk off the plaza and then down to this parking lot. That I thought would happen by somebody who would design, build the plaza itself, you know, with the planks and everything, they build basically a wooden walkway there is what I was expecting would happen. But I just want you to know sort of where this ends. Where the color is really where the work takes place. If there's no color, we're not doing any work.
Ian, did you have something?
I was trying to find, this document, here. You were referring to a number and I found it actually as you were.
I don't know if this got added to the
On page
agenda. I emailed
This
it
did
in.
after the packet was done, so.
But the money is in there.
Page 5, yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a second.
Lizzie?
So between the green and the plaza, that piece needs to be finalized if that was. And I think I know a little bit, but I'm not at liberty to say what that little issue is between the plaza, the ramp going down to the parking lot. If that piece of that puzzle was for you, then you could just finish that whole piece.
Yeah, you need to redo all the decking on the plaza, and there's like a crazy wall right there, and that's falling over. And so, what I would anticipate if you put ground piles in and build a little bit of a wooden walkway that would connect to the sidewalk, as opposed to trying to pour concrete up to it any further.
Oh, no, I just meant to fix the link and have the funds to do it between the green and I'm assuming that's the area that's not connecting to the actual plaza. And then take that phony wall out, and that's where that ramp
That's
goes
where that
down
ramp
there.
could go, yeah.
So you're missing that piece.
Yeah, but
In
I
that
could
picture
give
right
you a
there.
number, it'd be easy to come up with a cost and what that would look like in a really simple drawing for somebody who would wanna build it, just think about it, like a wooden walkway 5 feet wide that connects to the wooden plaza.
So is that something that Ernie should get with you so they can finish that piece, so you can have that final piece? Was he
It
negotiating
would
with
probably be
possibly?
easier to build this, and so they can see where that sidewalk ends, and then when you have the contractor that's gonna do the deck work, say, I wanna build a ramp from here to there, and they're like, okay. And they build it, you don't really need me to design it, because the contractor more than
Oh,
knows.
so that's the contractor who's
Not
gonna,
engineered.
okay, I thought they said they did have to engineer that ramp. That's what I
The-
heard, maybe 2 years
That's what
ago.
I'm trying. So we're also talking, Lucy wants to make sure that you're understanding that the goal is to have the whole plaza open up so that people can access. Remember how they wanted that back access, and so that's what she's asking about. is how will people be able to access, the backside of the plaza, you know? Like if this is the street here, right, Bridge Street, this is the plaza, and we wanna be able to have people walk off the back and into the park.
Mind if I go up in the point?
Plaza.
Yeah.
So that's what
Can
she
you
wants
zoom
to
in a
be
little bit?
sure that people.
Can you get?
That's what the intent of it was, and the,
This is where I need my engineer whiteboard. So this is the area I was talking about.
right,
Yeah. And so right now the sidewalk comes in ends, and there's an actual fence kind of right here. And then the plaza is right here, and there's a bit of a wall.
Yes.
And so this wall will come down. And then you're just into this open deck area at that point. And the contractor would build a wooden ramp from there and connect to there, and your rail would just go around like this. And so the people in the plaza would be able to walk down to here. You could build stairs if you wanted to as well, but this would be an ADA accessible route to the plaza, to the parking lot, and then down.
So,
But the
So my
problem is
question-
that gap, right, there's. this-
Right
there's-
here.
Yes,
so what is there now?
It just sort of falls off underneath the deck.
but the ownership is. what's-
And so I would expect you to put in
Yes.
posts here and literally build a deck ramp that connects to your deck.
So,
doesn't the city own that piece?
These are the property lines,
No.
these dotted lines here, and so everything we're showing is on city property, everything that we're building. This area, as far as I know, is also on city property. Ernie had some ideas about what to do here, but you don't own this that I'm aware of.
Right.
And so you could build this completely on city property without asking anybody for any help. If that makes any sense.
I was just wondering, if you don't engineer the actual ramp part.
I could, but you don't need to.
it sounds like when they do the decking, they can just,
They call it
Like, oh, yeah.
prescriptive design. And what I mean by that is the building code has, tables and standards for basic construction. And so you could go and I could design you footings and all this stuff, or you could say, I have a structure that's less than 5 feet tall, it's only designed to carry this many people, I'm gonna go to the table and I'm gonna use this size post, and I'm gonna use this size girder or whatever, what element we wanna talk about that I can't think of right now. But that's what a contractor would do in a design build. So when you have somebody come and build a deck, that's what they do. They know the building code says they have to have this size of a number, they have to have this many fasteners, they need to have this. We could call out some of those things, but not necessarily specifically give them a design other than we want it 5 feet wide, the grade can't exceed 8%, and we want a handrail on both sides.
Okay, so I apologize, because it must have been in a prior administration that I was told that was an obstacle for putting a ramp off the back of it. And I guess I assumed that they knew what they were talking about, and obviously they didn't. So I was always under the assumption prior years that needed to be, that was why they could never open up the end of the pavilion, because it needed to be
We
engineered.
just need to get a building permit, so.
Yeah, I think that this process had to happen in order for that to be vetted out. So this has to.
so,
Plan.
So you need a building permit, you have to have something that's submitted as part of your permit. But as long as it meets building code, you're good.
you can go.
I believe what he's saying is that we should stop asking him to spend money with him on something.
I don't think I need to do it, I can, but it's something that I would actually have a contractor give you a proposal.
I'd be willing to spend money on that one.
Alright, okay, Roxy?
And I think at some point in time, we were told it was in the waterway, we wouldn't be able to build. So we may not have known the exact, point of property line, ownership, that sort of thing at that time.
It has to do with, we have to submit to the planning department, which I think is gonna be Yamhill County here, if we're doing any construction in the floodplain. And we have to show a net zero impact. That's all that means. So you could build something on piles in the floodplain all you want, as long as it's not impairing the floodway.
We do the remind for that here.
Okay, so it would go to Liam, yeah. I mean, that's what the state law is, and it's a requirement of your flood insurance, it's a requirement of you being able to maintain flood insurance in Sheridan, that you have a program for people to be able to submit when they're building within the flood area. That makes sense.
Heidi?
So, would you guys, would the council like to see Tim do a bit? Yes.
I think so. I think this is a unique spot, Sheridan and Lucy people wanna see it, especially because it's gonna be cool, and especially when it's, I mean,
So awesome.
It's gonna be great for the city of Sheridan.
Would you like him to add, he said it wouldn't take much work to do the parking lot like we've all talked about and even the restroom.
can you break it down, kinda like what you did at Sheridan Road, where like water's a section, storm's a section, sanitary's a section, so like we have this bid, and then there's a separate small little section for the parking lot and restroom.
Yeah, I don't have to, you don't have to wait to bid this, for example. So you could go and do this work if you're okay with it, and then we could put a drawing together on the plaza itself on how the boardwalk would tie into it, because you're gonna need to do some drawings for the building permit anyway. So I would design them to comply with building permit, and then you get quotes from contractors, and he would submit that drawing to the building department.
Does anybody have any objections to getting bids for this? Sorry, Ian?
I don't have an objection. My only thing that I'm thinking right now, what's going through my head is there any restrictions to what we're gonna do now or hiccups to any sort of future improvement we would like to do? I don't know.
In the city in general, or just this?
On this particular waterfront area, considering that Morgan Street is what we're trying to reopen to the water. So I don't know if there's any concerns about the current design, but that would be my only question.
Liz?
One concern that came up is the private property owners, and if we have a thoroughfare or parking lot going past their property, how does that impact them, and what do we do about that?
You mean the
The property
parking
owners.
lot?
106 Bridge.
Oh, that over here? I thought you were talking about the parking lot over here.
No, but
Oh.
either when you come in from, Morgan Street, is it?
Mhm.
What is it, Morgan? So there are property owners down that way. So if there's more traffic through there, is there any, is there an impact statement or anything we have to consider as far as private property there?
So I actually have a pretty comprehensive parking lot design. And then we've shown spaces for those businesses to be able to access it in the back for deliveries,
Yeah.
garbage receptacles, outdoor seating if they wanted to, and made sure that the parking worked and they had enough buffer space between their property and the parking where they could do things. So, if you improve boat access or the river access and this stuff, people are gonna park here recreationally.
Right.
But they're also gonna park here for those businesses, because the businesses don't really have parking, but street parking.
Right.
And now they would.
Yes.
The only, I guess one thought, I don't think this will be effective, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask anyways. So where 106 is, if, say, the owner wanted to, I don't know, turn that into, or you just, I don't know, donate to us or donate it or sell it, or somebody saying we just included it, would this affect that to just?
Not in the slightest.
Didn't think so, I just wanted to ask.
The idea with that wall is to basically make it look exactly like it does now with a sidewalk.
But without this wall, we can't really do anything, we don't really
You
want.
can build a sidewalk there, but it would likely undermine because of the flood waters coming out. So if you go down there and walk behind that wall from, what is it, 106, it forms basically a gutter, and the flood waters come behind that wall and sort of cruise down to where the old basement used to be. And it's undermining all of the deck footings there. And, since you don't own the property, you can't really do anything about it. But we can build our own footing that it can't undermine. And that's the whole purpose of that concrete wall. It's a very simple thing.
All right,
So as it's undermining at the 106, the pilings, because I noticed that when it first fell, it was maybe 3 feet covered in dirt, and it's kind of gone down like 3 feet. And I mean, pretty soon, every winter when that starts, it's like a little ebb tide. It just eats around those pilings.
That's exactly what's happening.
And, it seems like that would be kind of like a warning for the city detriment if those pilings cave in during the winter. If they fall towards the pavilion, that's one thing, and I guess my thought was, well, if they fall in, I hate to, if they go towards the bridge, then maybe the county will finally do something about that, because to me, that's a big risk of an endangerment to the city and or the county property if those pilings get undermined even more, and they've gone down, I think, I haven't gone down and measured, but like, let's say 3 feet already since the time the building caved in, at least 3 feet.
With this project, we're removing all the outside pilings. And then the next set of pilings would be behind the wall and protected from scour. So that's part of this, is the contractor will go and remove all those last posts, pull all those concrete pilings out, and the sidewalk literally goes on top of where the little pilings were.
But this is like in regards to 106 and the existing pilings
Yeah,
that he has there.
Oh, yeah, his old stem wall there.
That's what I meant, it was getting, that's where I've seen the dirt, like maybe down 3 feet since the building caved.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of that.
Sheridan Stonehenge. Oh,
It's a Stonehenge, it's an attractive nuisance, that's how I place it. It's gonna fail at some point, unless somebody happens to be standing underneath it at the moment. I don't know what risk it poses, but it's causing channel erosion by its existence. That
So-
makes any sense.
So if it does, sorry.
Good.
If it does fail, how will that impact the integrity of the rest of the structure?
Shouldn't affect you in the slightest.
Okay.
I mean, it shouldn't affect the plaza or anything, but it's not gonna fall to the south, you know, cause it's angled to the north, you know, unless the whole thing caves in, it's probably gonna go straight down, or it's gonna kick out. So bank erosion happens from the bottom, and so it might eat out behind the thing and it would slide into the river. But that's why you have this giant wall there that goes down 6 feet, that will still be there. Think of it as a seawall, it's functionally what it's doing.
All right, Roxy?
I wanted to address Ian's concerns about, future, whatever we decide to do with it in the future. I think the parking lot will help, what we're planning on, plus the businesses. Parking's always been a problem, in Sheridan. And I think the thought of some restrooms, that's a huge problem for people that come to town to find a decent restroom to use. If they don't know about the park clear out there or the city park. So being downtown, center downtown will be a big improvement. And I'm not sure how much room we have for much more, but I think if we're at least looking that far ahead, I think we're planning on those developments, and that will fit very well with the project. Liz's point about the people in the homes, that live around there, we already know we're gonna have some sort of, pushback and negativity going there. I don't know how to solve that, or what we can help to do, I don't know, fencing, keeping no parking, maybe make sure there isn't any parking directly in front of their homes. I mean, there must be some ways that we can at least alleviate some of that negativity that I'm sure we're gonna have.
Or have the parking lot, you know, basically closed at night, that type of thing. Well, I guess it depends on what we, if it's gonna be used for businesses, like, I don't know, that was a thought, you know, closing after a certain hour, like no parking after a
Think
certain.
about a few of those other things.
Yeah.
But still, I think those are important, and I think we have thought about some of the, things that we might end up doing in the future.
Well, you can still get bids for it, though. Estimates for it from Tim, for the parking lot bathroom.
Yeah, that's, parking lot's pretty straightforward, cost asphalt and aggregate, that never changes, so.
Okay, well, is everybody okay with getting bids for
Yeah.
this project we're looking at right now? Okay. No objections to that, okay, all right. Well, we'll move on then to the vote for the award bid for ADA improvements on Bridge Street. And I think we have Chris here, maybe, still. But of course, we have Tim here as well, so. If we have any questions. I thought I s-
Is Chris online?
I don't think Chris is online today.
Okay, well, that's okay.
Remember the project, just not the memo we sent you.
I think if we do want to award this, I think the toughest part is gonna be deciding, you know, we've got a couple options for it, besides just the base project. Those, on page do like the stamped concrete idea. Although if it's just, I think it would be fine if it's just that section. You know, it might not, the next corner might not blend in, but it doesn't matter. We could maybe do that stamped concrete in the future, that part. Lucy, do you have something?
I don't know if it matters or not, it kind of goes with Roxy on the top, and second to the last, it says the upgrades at the Hebert Memorial Plaza on Sheridan Road. That's not on Sheridan Road. I don't know.
Which page?
I have it circled.
7, okay.
I haven't read it, but, you know, on page 7.
Okay.
I think that we noticed that memo there last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be,
So if we award this bid, I mean, or is everyone, well, maybe let's figure out if we want to award a bid at all. And then we can maybe pick what options we're thinking, if that's something we want to do. Denny?
I realize, the high water season is coming. So to do that wall for the piling every road, we're gonna be cautious of that, because it comes right up there, so I don't, the timing, I don't know if the timing's good.
But so this one is for just the sidewalk over there. The
yeah.
Yeah, the wall,
Sorry, I'm sorry,
yeah.
I apologize, yeah.
But yeah, that does make sense. By the time we get bids and things, by the time that's ready to go, that might be.
It'll be a responsibility of the contractor to schedule and protect the work.
So what are you asking, that we just decide which bid of these two?
Well, if you want to award the, I guess, award the bid at all, and then we do have some options. I don't know if there's, I'm not exactly sure the best way to do it, since we've got like 4 alternative bid options, but Ian, yeah, good.
I believe that, and Heidi suggested this, but Roxy also, said that I think you said that what we should do is this project, the Hebert Memorial Plaza project, and the sewer for Sheridan Road, and that would encompass most of the ARPA funds. Is that true?
I think you'll still have quite a bit left.
Okay.
I'm drawing up a dream over here.
Got it. So I believe that's what you said, Roxy, if I'm correct, and I support that. I think that sounds great. So far, I can't see any reason not to do those 3 projects.
Well, I'm not saying we do this, but since we're using ARPA money, we could probably go with lots of options. State, what federal funds. So,
and
good. Yeah,
where would the bike racks be?
Oh, yeah, I was wondering.
good question.
The pump out on the east side, that's where it's proposed to go. I think it's shown in one of the.
I think it's in front of the height.
So, because my question is, like, on 3rd Street in McMinnville, some of those property owners, if that building ever gets developed, and I hope it does, the sidewalk rack could maybe be used for the person who's renting for maybe a different option. And because it's not anything being done with the building, I don't know if it would necessarily, and I don't mind stamped pavement either, but, you know, right now, maybe they might wanna put a little table out there or something, you know, if it's a cafe or you know, the dreaded coffee shop or something like that. But I'm almost wondering if that's something, because right now, no kid's gonna use those bike racks for anything. And I know that the hope is that they will be used, and it's just like the stamped concrete, because there could be some destruction out there too done prior to it, because that's like $8,000.
So I think, because since
Almost
that,
$9,000.
so since that sidewalk is jutting out, I believe people could put tables out there, and people could do outdoor seating, because you only need 4 feet of right of way. So since this is kicking the sidewalk out more, people could do that.
And I wonder if we should leave it for an option for them versus if it's the right thing, when somebody's actually gonna ride a bike, or it's just gonna be something that nobody ever uses, because nobody's gonna be parking a bike there.
I see,
That's
so,
that's what I'm saying, for right now.
so wait on the
I
bike
don't
racks.
see people parking a bike there, because that's right next to Betty Louie's, right? Isn't that kind of closer to?
Huntley Building, Betty Louie's.
Yeah, so.
Figaro's,
who's gonna-
Subway, is that on the
You're
opposite?
standing in front of the second to the right most section of the Heidi building. There's 4 sections. If you're on the second to the right, if you turn around, that's where we're looking at.
Okay,
So it's right in front of that building. So kind of next to Benny Louie's.
And it's tough to,
It's actually closer to Lucy's building.
it's, well, that, and it's just have to know what's gonna go there when it's for sale right now.
I did think
That's
this is,
right.
sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Bike racks are easy to add later, super easy.
Okay, we
Yeah,
could just add that later.
I think, and they're what,
$2,000.
Okay, I'll call on Denny, go ahead, Denny.
Another option is put bike racks on the plaza, in front of the plaza.
That's a better option.
That doesn't tie up the sidewalk then.
Yeah.
So that's just an option.
Heidi?
We did get a phone call recently of a complaint of somebody who said we didn't have enough bike racks. And they were complaining that there wasn't a bike rack at City Hall and at the city park, so we did put those in. But do keep in mind that there are people out there that want there to be more bike racks.
But it sounds like
You can do it later, but I thought I
Yeah.
would speak on behalf of the phone call we've received.
all right, Ian,
I talked to that fellow, he said thank you.
okay, so bike racks sounding like maybe not, the other ones. Stamped concrete sounds like we like that for some people. I haven't heard technically from everybody, but I haven't heard any objections. And then with the ADA ramp, so really it's just bike racks and stamped concrete, and then we have to do ADA, so that's really our only options from what I can tell.
we have to choose which ADA.
The stamped concrete could go to the art group for ideas.
Oh, yes, we'll figure that.
And later, yeah.
Okay,
The contractor will submit, the colors that you have available to you and the stamps for the imprint on the stamped concrete, and then you can choose different things. So that's sort of a upcoming thing that you could look at.
okay, Ian, I think you're first.
If I may, the location that we're speaking about is, I believe it is right here.
I think it's further down.
That's the school.
Oh,
Yeah, I believe the high school.
Past the track, yeah.
Sheridan Road.
Right there. So right here is what we're speaking about, and I think, and I was confused about it at first.
Another block.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right
there's,
there.
right there. There's Hardy.
Sorry, I was confused about it at first, but I believe, so this is part of it, and then those other two are not separate drawings of the same corner, it's of that corner and that corner.
Yeah, so the Figaro's corner and
So
the whole.
it's kind of like we're doing all four corners of that intersection, except that one side is not
Once-
on the
once-
street.
Yeah, one side is solid, so it doesn't have a break. But yeah, that is right, yeah, it's all four corners.
I believe on the east side, one of the ADA ramps already meets ADA, so it technically doesn't have to be done, but aesthetically, you could do it, and then it would match the others, that was what that alternative was about.
I think that's the US Bank side,
Oh, what's that?
the US Bank side. I think.
I think the window side is, you think the narrow side makes sense? But I would,
Yes.
so I would suggest while you're waiting for the bids to come, everybody take a look at those sidewalks, because they're pretty cruddy. And it's, I don't know if you need really, well, they are, they're cruddy. I'm on that block. And, you know, here you're gonna have this really nice stamped ADA, and then the rest of the sidewalk's gonna look pretty, so I don't really know if they need to be stamped at this time, because it's actually gonna make the rest of the sidewalk look bad, and the other way might be a better general flow into what's really there. But I think everybody should walk down there like I do all the time, and take a look at what those will look like, really nice and then really cruddy.
Well, if we want to, we might be able to do the whole sidewalk the first.
The whole street, whole block.
Just that block, yeah, between Figaro's and, well, no, it starts at Figaro's, I was just gonna, no, for sure, in front of the Huntley, that's a solid strip.
Higher.
Yeah, Hyder, yeah, sorry, in front of the Hyder, yeah, I know, yeah, usually I'm pretty good about that, but yeah, so that strip like in front of the Hyder, we could probably do for some of the.
We should have a unit price for sidewalk in the bids, and, if it's something you wanna do, we can change over and add more to the full bid contract.
So you're like talking about running by in front of my building? Cause I'm not saying I need it, but you know, I'm just saying stop in front of the Hyder and not do Benny Huey's, but you're talking about doing the whole block.
Just that whole from corner to corner, basically.
The whole block.
Well, not that I need it, but thank you very much if you do, but I still think that the cheaper, and then you could take the extra money and maybe put it toward that project on Sheridan Road. I mean, it'd be like 10 grand, just about, it'd be $9,000.
Well, the stamp part, I mean, that's gonna jut out anyways, I mean,
I'm just saying, think about it when
So-
he brings back the bid.
So Tim, I'm probably confused on this. Is this the bid or the bid, just for the new ADA section or not the rest of the sidewalk to the right of it? Is it just the new stamped concrete that's gonna be in line with the ADA, or is it gonna be the entire sidewalk?
We weren't gonna do the whole sidewalk, just the ramps themselves and the pump out.
Okay. Okay, sorry, Ian?
I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I spoke to John at the Sheridan Revitalization Movement about specifically putting in, like flower basket holders and things like that along our roadways, and I don't know if this is a location in which we need to do that. However, I believe that I promised him that I would mention it, so I mentioned it.
It would be a good
Something
spot.
that we should do here.
Especially that strip. Yeah, cause that, we could put a couple.
I don't know if we need to.
It'd be cigarette
So,
or
if you get into new sidewalks idea, which, you know, not using the ARPA money on Sheridan Road opens up a lot of ideas, okay? And new sidewalks downtown are always appreciated, I'd say, by most people in a community. And if you do decide to get into sidewalks, Ian is correct, I think, that we need to think about the flower baskets. We get lots of requests for those at City Hall, but I would love to make sure that the city does all the water line underneath at that time too, so
Yes.
that they water themselves.
That's what I'm talking about now. So
Yes.
we're gonna do water lines, we need to do it.
So maybe you guys should all take some time in the next next week, you have another meeting, essentially, and go walk downtown and see what you really think of those sidewalks.
and worms.
Another can of worms. Yeah.
Okay, alright, Ian,
Can we vote to award this if we are desiring to do that? And then, have an addition later for the water line things before the project is started and
Which,
completed?
if they're open for the project, I suggest.
Well,
they do the
I think so. Tim?
Point of order. There's too many conversations going here, please.
Yeah, so Tim, Ian's question is, if we award this bid, are we able to, add what we were just talking about? Flower baskets, the water line underneath it, even without knowing how much that's gonna cost? Okay.
Yeah, so the process of that is they call a force count. We basically have the contractor give us a quote on what it would take to do that extra work. So if you're just burying, say, water line on the sidewalk, which is gonna be like a max pipe, it's just so insignificant, it's not really a big cost. But things like, plant holders and things, they probably pour drill in afterwards anyway. And so you might not wanna do it with the contract, maybe just put the water lines in and have somebody come and do the whole strip of core drill them all or that dirt or whatever you want. That's usually how they'll do, like when they set the flags or they set a planter and a sidewalk, they'll core drill them all at once.
Or put in a chase maybe to run a water line in the future?
Yeah, you can absolutely put a casing in. We, I had a project like 25 years ago where we did a streetscaping downtown and stuffed electrical conduit out for a future clock. And then 10 years later, I go flip through all the pictures to find out where this electrical conduit was and sort of X marks the spot and they cut a little square out and there it was. And so you can definitely do that as long as we keep a good record and you can come back to it after and there it is.
Okay, Lucy,
You know, do this.
No, go ahead, I'll go next.
So, just two more things that, since you got the can of worms open, is, first of all, part of the sidewalk on Bridge Street is aggregate. Actually, it looks kind of nice, kind of hosing it off, gets it nice and clean. There's a little bit of traction on that versus a slick concrete during ice. Question number one is, one more expensive than the other? And the second thing is, have you ever been to Pendleton? And have you ever seen their, I'm not asking them to go. Down their sidewalks, they have it stamped to look like boards, and it's just really cool looking. And it looks like they're walking down an old boarded street, and Sheridan is a western town. And I did, if was willing to consider a stamp, doing the whole street. I don't know the expense difference in that versus just doing sidewalk, if those two options would not be a feasible thing to look at, or just something that you could look into and get back when you do you're gonna do?
So you have a cost for stamped concrete now, and that's based on the square foot of that island. And so how I do the drawing, see the square feet of that island and divide it by that cost and tell you how much stamped concrete is per foot. And then you can just multiply that out.
You can do whatever design, if you want to look like boards or whatever.
Yeah, the stamping is just a stamp, so there's a bazillion of them out there.
Well, I didn't know.
Yeah, and so we could do stamped boards there, or you could do papers, or you could do rocks, or.
But we have to approve the stamped concrete option.
Well, this is only if you even decide you wanna do it, but since he's gonna do it, I just was throwing it in the wash.
Okay, so, I don't know, does anybody want to discuss anything else on this, or do you think we should?
Yeah, so here's an alternative that you can consider, is that, it sounds like you're in favor of the project. And so I would do a notice of award for this instance, and then, go take a walk and decide if you want to add some stuff. And then next week you can talk about it and say, hey, Chris, Tim, ask the contractor to give us a price on doing this and that and this and that. And, it's easy to change order a contract and that work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Liz?
Maybe this is premature, but I need to issue a notice of intent to award a contract for the construction of the Bridge Street ADA improvements, including the following bid alternative 3 and bid alternative 4. And I didn't include the stamps, so I don't know if that's.
I'll do.
Okay.
Okay. First and a second, so that's not including the stamped concrete.
Or the bumps.
Or the what, Jim?
Or,
Like Rick.
no, because I think.
Yeah, or the bike
I
racks.
think- I think they would go better at the Hebert.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Clarify.
Okay, Ian?
I like Danny's idea about putting the bike racks at the plaza. That sounds like a great idea, draw people to the plaza. They're on bikes. The stamped concrete, I kind of could go either way on it. I think it's a great idea, but can we just get a consensus, I guess, real quick on that, since we're voting on it now? And that seems to be the point of contention.
Okay.
Okay, as we're not gonna do the Sheridan Road stuff, we've got lots of money that we have to spend by 2025, right? I think, as we've talked before, let's spend the money and let's make it really nice. Let's do that. Let's get the stamped concrete, and we can design the stamp at a later date, but use it or lose it is what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Liz?
Should I amend the?
Did you do that?
Can I-
hasn't been seconded.
No.
Yeah,
not
she
yet.
seconded, Roxy seconded it. I can just add bid 1, 3, and 4. I just,
Did you just do that?
Move to amend.
Sure.
I move to amend the motion to add bid alternative 1 along with 3 and 4.
Okay, so, okay. Roxy, do you still second that?
That would include the stamp. Yes.
Okay, so the motion is
It would make
to
life
approve,
so much easier.
to award the bid with bid alternative 1, 3, and 4. That's what we've got, and we've got a first and a second. Is there any other discussion on that? All right, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor? Okay, all opposed? Abstaining? Yes. Okay. Jim abstains. Okay, that passes. Okay. Okay,
I don't think, do we need Tim for anything else he wants to know?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I was going.
I don't think so, Tim. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Were we talking anything about the public works
Standards? No,
standards tonight?
no,
No.
no. That was cool. Okay,
Next.
all right.
is public works.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on here, is the city-owned houses. And, part of this, I think, has been tough, is to think about like a plan of what to do. There's been, I guess, some ideas of what we can't do, but, I met with, Valia Plummer, and I invited her to speak about this. She has a proposal of what to do with this site. Valia, I know you're here, could you go ahead and, start your presentation? Do you have your stuff?
Yeah, I should, let me pull it up. Can you guys see that? Oh, is it just the Zoom screen? Hold on one second. I'm notoriously bad at sharing my screen. Okay, let me see.
Yvonne might be able to pull it up.
Yeah, you want me to share it, Thalia?
Yeah, if you have it, let me try one more time and then. Okay, there it is. So, what we are, I took a look at the, Middle and Morgan Street, parcel that's across the street from City Hall. And, just came up with kind of a, like, 50,000 foot overview of what be done with this property. So just to start out, you know, can benefit, our strategy that can benefit a wide.
Oh, I think you're kind of cutting out.
Oh,
It's probably our internet, sorry.
okay. Hopefully, maybe if I get closer, I'm not. Hopefully it holds up here. You're a service provider, so we see a lot of value in, on real estate that the city to it, and then just to give you a tiny bit of it. Me and my team, so I am a managing member for Elevate. And
Yeah,
our,
yeah, you're, sorry, you're still kind of cutting out. You might wait just wait a second, sorry.
Maybe if I put a little more.
Usually when I connect to my
Just that. Bandwidth and that.
It's always like person.
Oh.
I think I'm sharing Jim right now.
Jim's off.
Yeah, I logged out to give you more bandwidth.
Oh, okay.
Okay, maybe,
Sometimes we connect to my phone.
well, let's see how it is now.
Okay.
Jim's off. He was on the Wi-Fi at work, so. Okay, go ahead and see if it's working out.
is it better now?
Well, we'll see. Keep going.
So our team, between
Oh, no,
our.
still, sorry, it's still cutting out, hold on.
Hold on, Pat. Okay, I tried my personal
Discoverable
hotspot.
now?
You wanna see me? Okay, hold on. That's Heidi.
Huh.
That's a no.
Well, we've got two different ones, so this one is, oh, now neither of them.
Have no internet.
What about City Hall secure?
I can't get onto that one. That's, huh? It's not even bringing up my. Wi-Fi one.
It's not saying.
Right.
Fine.
Nothing like technology.
Should've brought a bigger water bottle, maybe.
I'm gonna go back.
Or five, mine.
What is yours?
It should just be Cale.
Man, it's just not finding any button.
Maybe exit out.
I'm gonna say I maybe need to refresh.
Do what?
I'm just being a smart aleck.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's Heidi.
Okay.
Okay.
You can join, Heidi. I'll take mine back.
Let's see how Heidi's is. Good one. Okay, we're connected to Heidi. Let's try it again.
Okay. So hopefully you guys heard a little bit at the beginning and, hopefully it's doing better now. But, my team and I, we represent over 70 years of experience in real estate, construction, Planning and Development, and collectively and individually, we're very dedicated and passionate about working alongside public, private, and nonprofit sectors to build and preserve thriving communities that advance equitable outcomes for all in rural and urban areas throughout the Pacific Northwest. So I'm currently working on affordable housing project over in Sheridan and working on a couple things in McMinnville. So I'm very passionate about bringing affordable, accessible housing and revitalizing downtown areas in rural areas. So we took a look at the 4-lot parcel over there and kind of came up with a game plan of what we think we could do with this. And our first idea is to consolidate the lots. We would like to do an integrated, mixed-use, pedestrian-oriented community in the heart of downtown Sheridan that would include a variety of housing types and price points. It would be basically commercial on the bottom. We would specifically, cutting out again.
No, I think you're okay.
Okay, we would specifically choose businesses that would complement the existing commercial activity in the downtown area, and then residential on top, which would basically be it's a pretty small space, you know, all 4 lots. I think there'd be about 11,000 square feet of buildable area. So we can probably do, you know, maybe 4 or 5 max commercial spaces on the bedroom efficiency units. We could do about, if we went up 2 stories of residential, we could have about 16 units total. If we were able to go up another story, we could probably add another 8 units. And then we would definitely be looking at, those would consist of affordable apartment homes as well as market rate apartments. So affordable in our world is for residents earning between 60 to 80% of the area median income. And then we would like to keep a portion of the apartments as workforce housing and market rate housing. As far as, we're very passionate about blending history with contemporary living. So some of the ideas we threw around were retaining and restoring original architectural details such as crown molding, wainscoting, hardwoods, and any other built-in features that are things that the community likes. And we'd also get creative with repurposing some of the elements as far as like turning salvage doors into tabletops, using reclaimed wood for shelving, and then embracing modern technology, and like modern fixtures, so hidden outlets, smart home systems, wireless technology, so that we can maintain the historic aesthetics without sacrificing modern convenience. So I went to the fiscal year end 2024 to 2025 budget letter from Heidi, and I looked at the 3 main goals that were listed on there. This is for the council strategic plan. So the 3 goals that were on there were revitalizing and recruiting downtown business, ensuring a safe and resilient community, and increasing community livability. So as far as revitalizing and recruiting downtown business, there's significant economic benefits of mixed-use development, which includes an increase in property values, tax revenue, steady customer base from nearby residents and employees, as well as an increase in employment opportunities during construction and operation phases. And then as far as ensuring a safe and resilient community, there's, you know, we would plan, if we did this development, to improve the appearance of the area with well-maintained sidewalks, landscaping, decorative lighting, and signage, increase safety through and around the clock presence of people, and it fosters a sense of security and liveliness with a mix of affordable and market rate housing, community space, office space, some retail, and then, you know, some gathering spaces. So we talked about having office space for like co-working, people that are working remotely and want to come together and brainstorm or grab a room to have a meeting, things like that. Increase the community livability, is, this project would promote independence of movement. So we see it as being a very walkable space, decrease road congestion by offering residences, public service, and recreation spaces within a short walking, driving, or biking distance. And then adaptable living solutions for individuals who do not require or desire large detached properties. And some of our key things that we would be looking to do here is to look at creative parking, on-street parking, off-street, on-site, with development and redevelopment, formal and informal shared parking spaces. Increased residents would help businesses thrive in the local area. And then we would definitely incorporate some smart development principles as far as efficient use of land resources. Transportation options are increased through these developments, full utilization of urban services. And then there'd be convenient access to shopping and amenities, so there would, and synergy between existing downtown businesses. So, yeah, we just see a lot of potential in this, and a lot of potential to kind of make this a thriving place that then has a ripple effect on the surrounding communities and places around it. So we just think this could be something great that would really revitalize the downtown area and be a kind of a hub that would draw people to this and provide some livable options for people. So yeah, it looks like the 50,000 foot overview. So our next steps would be, if you guys were interested, we would probably do like a consulting contract to start, and so that we could get a conceptual layout, and then lay out some of our, come back with like a proposal and of what we could actually do in the space. If we did decide to, and that proposal would include, it would include like what the partnership structure would look like, performance measures, contractual agreements, timing, all of that fun stuff. And then we can conduct feasibility if we did go under contract with it, studies and provide conceptual plans for it. We can help the city secure financing and build the project for an agreed upon percentage. There's ways to mitigate costs, such as subordinating the land to the construction loan. And grants, we would go after whatever federal grants we could go after, state grants, things like that. And then we could, you know, I talked to Mayor Cale and Heidi about the land having, being set up in a land trust so that the city owns the land permanently, and there's a permanent, as long as you want it, and there's a permanent affordability model to it for the units that are affordable. And then we would be happy to professionally manage and maintain project operations and stuff.
So, I thought when we had talked, it sounded like your organization, they would be the ones constructing the facility. Is that right? The city wouldn't have to, you know, pay any construction costs or anything like that.
We foresee the upfront cost to the city for a consulting contract, because there would be some upfront costs, which we estimated to be about 5,000. That's for the conceptual layout and to get the basic, like, is this feasible? You know, because we do have to pay our engineers. That would come out of our own pocket if we didn't. But if we subordinated the land to the construction loan, then there'd be no upfront cost. And then we would manage that process of, you know, getting people into the spaces, renting it out, and then paying the construction loan once the project is built.
So aside from that initial cost, the city wouldn't be paying to do.
Yeah, we don't see any upfront costs outside of that.
Okay, and we did mention the idea of, you know, the city retaining ownership of the land. We can also just sell it if they're interested in buying it. But one other thought is to have the land, so we do have some say over it, and especially since it's right across the street from City Hall. But we can also, there's also an option to just sell it if we'd like to. But that's, you know, a couple different options there. Ian, did you have a question?
There would be potentially quite a few foreseeable increases to the city's cost because of increased insurances for providing residences. If we're taking up the landlord mantle, then you can't just rent out property without the proper insurance. So that's gonna increase our costs. And then at some point, there's gonna be issues with the property, and we're gonna have to pay Gary and those guys out to go out there and deal with, you know, as opposed to doing other stuff that in the city that they could be doing, which there's plenty to do. So there will be increased costs for sure in the future.
And we're happy to, I talked with Mayor Cale about this, we would basically be the landlord, so, you know, at lease up. So we would, and also during the construction process, my group is very, well rehearsed and we're very experienced in getting, grants and funding things. So we try to build this at the absolute lowest cost, and then there would be revenue to the city from the rents. And, we would make sure that the project pencils when we're doing our financial projections for it, so.
So then, so would your insurance cover that, or would the city have to be, the city's insurance cover that then?
I mean, we can get the insurance quotes but we would wanna make sure that the project pencils so that there is positive cash flow. So yeah, on the city's end, I'm not exact, I'd have to look into what, like, all the different little pieces that that would be, but.
Okay.
Just to be clear, Kelly, you will be the landlord, you'll take care of all of it. And so the city really doesn't have any daily stuff or yearly stuff that they have to do or pay for, right? Just know that that there's two options, essentially, the city can sell the lot to this company, well, there's many options really, but either sell it or retain it, but at the land with the first option to buy, isn't that what we had said or something? I'm not really sure how the land trust part works, but essentially, Cale and I, when we talked about this, we're also concerned about all the little things, I guess, or they're big things, but they're like all these things that we didn't know that would happen with it. And we had told her that we wanted to pretty much be hands off because we do not want to be in the landlord business because we're not good at that. So she knows that. So
Yeah, and that's how we see ourselves coming alongside of you. So you would be the owners of the land. You would, you know, we would take a fee for managing it and for being the landlords. But then whatever positive cash flow is going back to the city. So we see ourselves as managing the operations, as managing the whole construction process and the development process. So it would do whatever we need to do to make it a very hands-off project for the city.
I need clarification. Do you mean that we would be leasing the land to you so the city would get money back? What do you mean that the city would get a cash flow back out of this?
Well, you guys own the land.
Right.
So when I talked with my team about it, we were just kind of throwing out numbers. And so once it's built, you know, we would probably take like a 3% fee out of whatever, plus whatever it costs to manage it, so whatever a property manager's fee is. And then, the city would retain whatever cash flow is left over that's coming from, rents and things like that, because you still own the land and you still own it, we're just the landlords. So, yeah, whether that's a lease option or where, you know, owning the building, but we don't own the land, that's not, so there's many ways to break it up, but we don't, this is kind of just like the 50,000 quick overview of it. But we are happy to manage it however the city, whatever makes sense to put on more tax revenue and more cash flow to the city without having you guys be the landlord.
I just like the idea of us retaining ownership of the land, so we still have some say of what goes in there, but if that's not something council's interested in, we can just sell it too. But the main thing I like is the commercial downstairs and residential upstairs. That's the part I like. Roxy?
Would 3% cover property management fee and, all your, repair fees? I mean, would be covered in just that 3%?
So we would probably do the, during the building part, it would be a fee build structure, so we, getting you through feasibility and, the building of the project, and these are just estimated numbers, like these are not hard numbers. But we estimated that at 10 to 15% of the project cost, so, and that would be built in pro forma. And then once it's built, it would be 3% to us as landlords, but then there's also a property manager's fee. I have a property manager that I work with who's very interested in working on this project. Generally, she charges, 6% of the rents or all the way up to 8 or 9%, but that's something I'd have to work on the actual numbers.
That would be not included in the 3%, so it'd be 12%, as much as 12%.
Yeah.
Jim, maybe I just don't get it. The upfront cost to us is about $5,000. And you build these very nice buildings and then you manage them for people who, want to live there and businesses below. Who owns the buildings?
Well, that's something that can be negotiated. So if you want us to own the buildings, that's fine. If you want to, own the buildings and then we can do like a master lease type structure. There's different ways to break it up. It would really be up to the city on what your goals are and, what you're wanting to do with the property.
Thank you.
But, the entire land plot though, that would have to be, fair land, is that right?
Yeah, we would, like I said, we would try to reuse and, I have and recycle whatever we can. I know there's some elements about the Pixie House that you guys like. So we talked about keeping a lot of the elements of the Pixie House and using it for shelving and flooring and different things. And then also recycling so other, organizations can benefit from whatever is still usable. So we would definitely try to blend historic elements as much as possible and reuse things wherever we can. But basically we would, be starting fresh.
Okay. Liz?
So are you incorporating parking into your plan? Because it sounds like you would need some parking space with
Yeah, there's,
commercial and residential.
yes, there is. So, a lot of this would be dependent as well on how high we could go. We did this based off of kind of like a 3-story structure. I wonder if I can pull up Google Maps on here and it'll show my screen. Or Google Earth, sorry. Actually, well, I'll go ahead. There is a small space off to the side of, no, the 127 Mill Street. There's kind of that weird side of the lot. Let's see if I can bring it in here.
I think you have to do south, Bill.
Yeah, do
Yes.
southwest.
I'm like, where am I?
South, yeah, southwest mill, sorry.
Perfect, and there we go. Everything. So when you zoom in, there's a space off to here that we thought would be a good spot for some parking, and we talked a little bit about building up, doing kind of a mix of like off-street parking, potentially underground parking if we could go, you know, as high as 4 stories. So there's definitely options, and then a lot of people, we do want to make it a very walkable community, so we do foresee this as, you know, a lot of people that work remotely, and so there'd be places to put bikes and things like that. So, but between that and then the potential for building, you know, building parking into the plan, we think that's doable. The total square footage is about, let's see, it was 12,812. And so we saw the footprint as being about 11,000 square feet. So we'd have to get creative with the parking, but we do think we can make it work.
Cale, didn't you come up with 16,000 square feet out of that area when it was off there?
Yeah, I added up the square footage listed on Yamhill County GIS. And that's what, I think that's what I got.
I can go back and check our numbers. I think we were adding setbacks into it, so I'm not, but I can go back and double check to make sure my numbers are right.
Yeah, we did do setbacks.
Oh, yeah, I just added the lots, yeah. Okay, any other questions for Talia? Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and you guys know how to contact me if you want to chat more about it. So.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is an option that's kind of, you know, there's a lot of different pieces to that, but I do like the idea of, you know, commercial and then residential on top. And, you know, something that I had thought of is, say we kept that house over there, Mill, that could house, you know, one family, whereas if you build residential units on top, you could have several. So we might be able to add, you know, more housing if you're thinking about using it for housing. Denny, go ahead.
Yeah, that concept has been around for a long time. Residential on top, commercial on the bottom. I like everything she said, except she wants us to retain the land, and I don't. We do not need to get into this again. I'd like to see the city sell that, get the money, and invest it in something else, such as infrastructure or something better.
Okay, yeah, we can talk for about it, because they may just buy it. That was just something that I had wanted to make sure was an option with this. I was being able to lease it, but I imagine, well, I can't say for sure without asking her directly, but I believe selling it is also an option to them. But yeah, I think I wasn't around when we were the city was landlords, but I understand that not wanting to get into that again. I don't think really anyone wants to. But that is an option if we even did want to lease it. Okay, any other Jim?
I wholeheartedly agree with Denny. The city doesn't need to be a landlord or a land leaser. It just needs no more problems. We can see what was going on there before. Not again, once is
Ian, you got,
Oh, sorry, I was agreeing with him as he was saying.
right, Heidi?
I think we all know me well enough at this point to know that I did not ever want to be a landlord. I didn't know that part of the job when I started here. So I am also anti-city being a landlord again. But there are ways that we can be completely hands-off, is what I was hearing and listening, and that would be a city attorney thing to draft that up. So basically, Cale and I wanted to make sure that you guys had as much flexibility in this as possible, so that you really had a lot of options to feel comfortable. But I think also a pretty gifted housing attorney, and so he could probably figure that out.
Jim?
What's the advantage to keeping the property and renting it out versus just outright selling it to be done with it? What's the advantage?
Roxy, I think has an answer to that.
Money, revenue.
How much?
Well, that's why I was asking her about what their costs were. I wanna know more before I went into any kind of agreement.
I guess-
See, they get grants to build it, they're not out the funding to build it. We own the property, they manage the property, they maintain the property. They could insure the property. I would be willing to bet, probably even cover the property taxes easily with, some revenue.
I think the other plus is that in the future, if we, I don't know, it would depend on how the contract's laid out, but we would be able to do something else with that land in the future if we wanted to. But we could also just sell it and be done with it. But we probably wouldn't be able to buy it back.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, once they build these structures,
Right.
I don't see any way to do anything else with that property. I mean, we can keep it running if you think we can make more money by renting it than just selling it outright.
I'd like to know some more information, you know. I mean, we're talking big numbers when you're talking about a 3 and 4 story building.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you start talking about 15%, I mean, that's a chunk.
Yeah.
And 3% here, you know, management fees, and that's based on rentals and income, but still, I couldn't fathom those kind of numbers without having some information to work on.
You're much better. I mean, I can't fathom the numbers
But
at all.
the possibility is, tremendous.
Sorry, Liz, sorry.
I have major reservations because it sounds too good to be true. Why would a company want to lease a place, you know, why would they wanna build it, take care of it, and lease it rather than just outright buy the land and get all the, money themselves? It doesn't, it seems to me like it's just too good to be true, that we would, you know, still be landowners, they would do all the building, cover all the costs for building, take care of all the management, et cetera, maintenance, and we would still get some money back. It seems to me that they would just wanna buy the land into that and get the money. What? I
They
mean,
might.
yeah, I just don't understand. I'm just a little concerned. It sounds too good to be true, and when something sounds too good to be true, I know there's a hook. There's something, there's
Money.
something,
They
yeah,
make money too.
yeah.
You
I
can
don't
bet.
know. Okay.
Correct. Lucy?
So I think before you start getting all, you know, thinking about the income, because the one word she said was the city would have to subordinate. And I think that Tyler, subordinate means, kind of like reminds me of when you do an owner carry, if somebody wants to get a loan, so you have to take, that's exactly what happened to the Huntley building with Rich Mathis. He signed it over to the new guy's going into bankruptcy, Rich Mathis is SOL.
Yeah.
And that's what they want the city to do, but you can ask him. The other part is, I think you need to remember that, you know, if the city wants to ever enlarge someday, and I personally think this is a great city hall, I like the location, I like the look. You could always add on to the back of the building, and then we could use that for a parking lot over there to suffice the new building here, whether you wanted to go straight back or up. Because it'd be a lot cheaper just to remodel this building and keep it for a city building than building something new somewhere else. So those lots across the street would provide essential parking, not only for potential of this building growing one day, unless you like the size of it, which I don't have a problem with, but other people would like to see it grow, which I don't have a problem with. But you could extend this out the back end and use that for parking. Not only that, but with the new pavilion and the parking lot down there, if they put bathrooms, we might need what's the word they call it? I call it overlay parking. So, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And that is only about a block away from the ramp and the access to the river down the road. So if that gets really busy, that would be a place for the access parking to go to.
Ian?
I don't see the difference of us being, I feel like we would still be landlords if, it's just in a different way, if they're leasing the property, you know, on some level. I mean, obviously Tyler would know better than I do, but on some level, we'll be liable for a variety of things, potentially, including maybe even the sidewalks and other expenses that may come up in the future, infrastructure issues, if we maintain ownership of this property. So in many ways, we're still landlords, just in a different way. And that, I don't even know if that's really something that we should be doing in the first place as government. And secondly, I don't even know if it's legal for us to do, like on I guess the grander scheme of things, it might be actually legal for us to do. But so those are my concerns, and I guess I would say, you know, Lucy and Denny in the past have both talked about making it a parking lot, and that sounds pretty good to me. I don't understand why we're bringing up a new thing 2 years into this when I feel like we've kind of already hashed out almost every possibility we've talked about. An Sheridan type of building like you suggested, the commercial below and the residential above. Is that what it's called, the Sheridan building? Whatever. The other building that has that here in town.
Oh, yeah, with the sound and,
The stand.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
So
yeah, okay, yeah.
it's a different entrance. So I think I'd like to discuss potentially turning it into a parking lot for now, because that's cheap.
And we don't.
And we need parking.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. I think that we get this lot, 4 lots prepared, such as just get in there and get some compact gravel in there and turn it into a temporary parking lot. We can decide what we want to do later, or somebody may come up and give us a crazy amount of money for it. I don't want to see the city back in the landlord. We already have farmland, and some of that's not working out very well. So I just think we should get it prepared, and then our options are open.
Right, Lucy?
And not that I really, you know, about property management back when the city had those. I told the city back then that they didn't have a good property manager. So really, I mean, not that I'm saying yes or no, but just the fact is, you need to get a good property manager, and the city wasn't willing to do it at the time. And that's why those buildings got deteriorated.
So I think, well, whatever we gotta do, we gotta figure out what to do with that house. So, does somebody have an idea or a motion to do something with it?
I got
Jim?
a couple more questions.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
She said they would buy the land if we offered it. And then they could build these really nice buildings with, you know, residences above, stores down below. And that land is getting used, but if we keep land as landlord, not as landlords, but just lease the land, we pay the taxes on that. And I imagine that'd be a nice, developed property, that property taxes, but just go through the roof.
I mean, I don't think we asked her specifically on who would pay the property tax in that scenario, but yeah, that is true. If they didn't pay the property tax, if they did, that could be.
I think he's saying if we sold it,
Oh,
we get
yeah.
property taxes, because the assessed value of it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
quite
if
a
they
bit
build a
more
bunch of buildings
taxes.
down there, then the assessed value of that property is gonna go way up, and then who pays for that? Well, for the landowners that were leasing it, just like that farm property out there, we pay the taxes.
So I wanted Kelly to come and give us, an idea of what could happen. And it sounds like we're, wanna sell it, and I can talk to her and, make sure that's an option and what all that would look like. But I think the first step is decide what to do what's currently there. I think, well, I think it still sounds like we were wanting to get it flat to sell, so, Ian?
I'll just say this as a small addition in my limited, well, I would call it a large amount of experience in older homes. But I walked through it today and I looked under the house and into the attic and all throughout the house, and it's got some serious issues. I don't think the house is really worth, I've looked at this bid here and this is not even close. So it's not, it needs completely new plumbing, completely new electrical. It needs it's hard to say. There's plaster falling off the walls, which I don't see in this bid either. And so, I mean, and once plaster's falling off the wall, there's a lot of, it's difficult to repair. It's easier to just tear it all out in place. So we're talking about major, all the way to the bones renovations with this home.
I don't know who's first, Roxy, were you first?
Also, I'm concerned that, with this of a major, renovation, it's going to, trigger FEMA. I don't think it is, FEMA regulations as far as, elevated so much over the floodplain. It needs a foundation also, rewiring. All of those are going to add to the cost. And am I not correct about FEMA?
You are, there's a lot of changes even coming up, that's
Right.
probably why you see Tyler.
So, I don't think, 3 times as much is be enough to, cover the renovations. And I know how Lucy feels, I'd like to save it, but I just don't think we can. I just don't think we can. We can't afford to.
As Ian said, that bid is not even close. Yeah. Back half of that 20 feet on that side is no foundation sitting on the ground. The windows are not worth anything, they're not insulated. The heating system have to be put in there, but exists there is so outdated. We don't know about the water system. There's nice looking water tank there, but I don't know if it was ever drained when people moved out. It's probably frozen broke. And it just goes on and light fixtures. And I don't know if the rodents are still there, but there's still rodent poop. So, I don't know if that got cleaned out the first time, but it's still there. Anyway.
It was gone at one point, but go ahead, Heidi.
I just wanna repeat something that Nick said when he was here at the task force. I really enjoyed talking with Nick. He said to start a project, he recommends that we start with a project with the end in mind and go back. And so I think that is really important that people remember what they want. I think, if you think that a parking lot is what's needed, I always say, I don't think we really have a parking problem. I know everybody thinks we do, but I spend quite a bit of time down here and I don't see cars parked on the side of the streets very much. So I think we have a commercial problem. I, as a resident in Sheridan, feel like that there's not enough places to go to eat or to get a cup of coffee or to see little stores or something, right? I think we have a commercial problem. And I know that in general, we also have a housing problem. We hear about people who are looking for little places to live. So I think you need to really engage yourself to think about what you do want. Like, what is the end goal? What do you want to see? This is an opportunity that it's like it fell here, and it's just a neat thing to really think about, So one of the things that you could think about doing tonight is spending the $5,000 to engage in this conversation, because that's what she called it, right? A consulting fee, and then it gets
Concept layout.
a concept layout.
And I think even before that, we can even just talk, first make sure they want it,
Yes.
make sure they would buy it. If they're not interested in buying it, then we'll move on or something.
I am
But-
pretty confident that they were interested in buying it.
Okay, so that
Yes, do need to make sure of that.
so council's fine with that, and, I can even come back to the next council meeting, give it an update before we approve any spending of money, but we can engage and make sure that even if we aren't leasing it, that's still, that they would buy it.
For sure.
And then we're gonna have to figure out selling price and that type of stuff.
Yeah. But I
Making
think
sure we're gonna get a good deal.
thinking with the end in mind is really important, and with your council goals in mind, is what I would say.
Okay, Danny?
I think it's a general consensus here that we would like to see housing and stores over there. I think that's pretty much the general consensus. So again, I think we need to get started by making a parking lot, and then the options are all open by that, totally. I don't know why we've got to spend $5,000 to talk to somebody about it. Let's just go do what we need to do, and it's not gonna be the cheapest thing in the world, because all that siding will go away, no matter what, all that siding has to go away. And just, there it is, now it's ready. Here you go, folks, you got a flat lot. What do you wanna do? I'd sure like to sell it to you. I don't know why we gotta spend $5,000 to.
Yeah, and maybe we don't need to if we're not gonna be holding the land, so that's also, we might just say, here you go, yeah, so that, and that's another thing is we'll make sure, you know, if we have to spend that or not. Liz?
So when the fire department does a learn to burn, do they take out all the stuff? Do they prepare the place to burn it, or would that be on the city?
It's, from my understanding, they actually like to keep it, yeah, they like to keep it like a house, cause then it's more realistic, like, cause they'll do drills and stuff.
And then they'll haul away all the.
No, we do a lot of the hauling away, but they set up different like scenarios in each of the rooms so that they can have that practice in there, but we do have to make sure like the water heater's out and some other things like that, that has some risk of explosion, I suppose. But, we do have to do that, and then yes, the public works team, does all the removal of it, and then we also have to pay for the dump fees down at the Coffin Butte too. So, there's quite a bit.
Do we have to go to Coffin?
Yeah, we take it to Coffin Butte. It's, yeah.
Not McMinnville.
No, it's like huge construction debris.
Oh, gotcha, right, okay, yeah.
So there's a special.
I'm not used to dumping construction.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's burnt too on top of it.
Or storage units.
Yeah.
So, okay, so would that be really costly for the city to do that? Cause I think that's the way to go in this stuff.
6,000 maybe.
Well, we've already voted to do Morgan, so.
Yeah, you can do them both at the same time. She is interested, one of the things that I thought was interesting, and maybe I heard before here, but maybe not, was that people were also interested in trying to keep some of the architecture or keep some of the history pieces of it. And so that's another option, which is people like to pick things apart or take it and, use it for rewood. There's a place in Sherwood that takes it, and a place in Aurora that takes old pieces of houses. So that is another option instead of having it burnt, is allowing for a company to come and dismantle and take it. So I didn't know if people just wanted to burn her down or if people were interested in more of the green way of taking it apart. But whatever is clever.
Well, burning might be quicker, and I assume that places that come and recycle parts of it, we're gonna be left with the rest of it anyways. And
you can also sometimes, Ian probably knows much more about this, or houses and searches for parts.
okay.
Oh, go ahead.
That would be unlikely that they would want to tear out anything in that house after walking through it. The flooring, I mean, maybe there's some salvageable flooring in there, but this is not a valuable, from the era that it was built is not valuable products that are in the house so much. The only real value to that house across the street is that whoever framed it did a good job. I mean, I looked at the bones of it, and the cuts are clean and smooth and tight, and I'm like, that's good work. That's when someone, the rest of the work is pretty decent, but God knows what has happened in there since, which is the real issue.
Liz?
So if we sold the land to this company, the planning commission would still have some jurisdiction over the type of dwelling they put on it, right? Because we wouldn't want some, monstrosity that just doesn't fit into the neighborhood. We would like them to have an architecturally, copacetic place, right? Do we have any jurisdiction over that?
The planning commission would apply the Sheridan Development Code to any development on that property.
So we wouldn't have a high rise in the middle of a nice residential neighborhood. That's what
I
I'm
believe our
asking.
development code limits the height to 35 feet.
Okay, that would be my
But not
only
the
concern.
architecture. We don't have an architectural design element here.
Yeah, that's
We
what I'm
don't, we
asking.
wouldn't get to
want anything
micromanage the process.
It would, and then it wouldn't fit in. So
But I
that's
think
what I'm
that's
asking.
part of like you guys can even go out for an RFP. Like there's other cities that do this. They essentially level it, like Denny's talking about, and then they go out for an RFP for a bid and say, bring me all your ideas, by this date. And then everybody bids on it, but then they also do like a rough sketch or a design or something what they're gonna put and talk about the architecture. You can even put that in the RFP, like we wanna make sure that it is, period friendly for downtown Sheridan.
Denny?
We've been kicking this around for I don't know how long. It's blight in the neighborhood, has been since I came to town 18 years ago.
Yep.
I saw people across the street from, Morgan Street. Those two guys worked on that house for I don't know how long. It's a nice little house now. They totally redid it. They spent thousands. But that pepped up the neighborhood, makes it a lot nicer looking. So I make a motion that we get rid of both of those houses, burn to learn, ASAP, just as the fire department can do it. That's a motion.
I second it.
Okay, all right, first and second, technically, we already made a motion to burn bargain, but that works, yeah, that works. So first and second, any discussion on that?
Well, I'm gonna say it,
Go ahead.
doggone it. I decided to clean that last word up a little bit. So I talked to those two guys today. They actually were looking at Morgan House, and I got them the information tonight, and they said that could be salvageable, but I like 127 better. I said, if I could get you the keys and show them to you, I would, because we got a council meeting at 6. He goes, I got set with the school in Albany at 6. So that just goes to show you that they took that dumpy little thing that I've sold before, and they're fixing it up nice, and they were looking at Morgan Street, because I like the contours of the house, but I like 127 better. So, first of all, what you might think is ugly, once again, is somebody else's treasure. And if they could get it for the right price and work with the city, they would have bought it and not tried to lease it, and then they would have fixed it up. So I can't promise them anything, because I would ask you guys, if I could list that property, I could actually get it out there on the market. But my hands are always tied and so are my feet, so the only thing I can do is whatever I'm doing on the side to solicit people. I also talked to another nonprofit today, after I talked to that woman, but she wanted the whole block, and I said, well, kind of looking at just one, because I think part of it should be retained for a parking lot, either for the city or the riverfront. And the other thing that's kind of funny is you're worried about access to the river and what the neighbors are gonna think, and she was talking about a 4-story building. What's wrong with that picture? I mean, it's like, there's just so many things that aren't being taken into consideration. And I thought if you could sell a slice of one, like 127 even, and give it, because that's got asbestos on it, so you're gonna spend so much money hauling that off and cleaning it out. And like Ian said, it's sound, you may not wanna fix it, but those guys over on Morgan Street like 127 a lot better. So does that mean by the next council meeting, if I bring the city an offer, even though you don't list it with me, and they offer to buy that place, you'll take that from them and then continue on if it's more than your eyeballs can imagine, and they're willing to buy that from the city? Because all I've been trying to do is get some authorization to try to make the city some money off of that, so that you can use it to either fix the parking lot, which I still think would be good for the riverfront access for overload parking or excess parking or whatever. Or the city can do it when the city wants to decide to grow. Or do you want to spend millions of dollars on a new facility somewhere else when this building is in the right location for the city of Sheridan? And so even if you sliced off 127 to the back lot, these other people I talked to who are nonprofit that can get the grant money to fix it were very interested in it, but unfortunately I could only get to them today. And I said, well, there's a meeting tonight. So that is just me doing 4 or 5 people, and there's interest in those 2 properties, and of course the rest of the lot, this lady wants the whole thing, versus giving, give me a shot to see if I can at least slice off the 127, and if you want to make the rest of it into a parking lot, fine. But if you were going to sell it, why would you clean anything up for the buyer? I would make the buyer take it as is and be responsible for everything. But I don't think the city should sell the whole lot, because I think it would still be good for parking and a facility. And yes, I do have it in my mind, because these people thought the same thing, something like, a coffee, or even they said an ice cream. And I said, you could do any of those things and then still have the upstairs, and you could facilitate that to your need. And that asbestos isn't a problem unless you tear it off of there, because it actually works as a great insulator. And the reason the back is on a slab or no foundation is because it's a garage that they converted into living space. So the slab is considered a foundation also. So.
Great, Jim.
You took a left turn right in the middle of that. You were talking about that house, and all of a sudden we're talking about building onto the city hall.
No, I mentioned that earlier though.
Oh, no, you mentioned, but that was in the middle of why we want to sell that house. I know you've loved that house. I know you have, brought it up several times. In all that time, you never said to somebody, hey, if you wanna take a look at this house, I get the keys. I mean, it's been months. I'm not trying to pick on you at all, but there's been months and months where you could have had that opportunity. And now tonight you're saying, well, I talked to these people today and they're interested now. But you had interested people before that never followed through.
I'm the one who got the bid when it was gonna be the resource center, and the contractors gave a bid, wasn't it for 59,000?
And even attached it. Or even-
Those are licensed and bonded contractors that I take their word over yours,
That's
and
fine, that's fine.
because that's what they do for a living. And I respect people who do something for a living more than somebody who just has hearsay and doesn't have a license to back it up with. So if some licensed and bonded contractor tells me that and they give a written bid, not Mr. Bigelow's, it was another one, to do more extensive work than Mr. Bigelow was going to do, and I did give that to the city when it was gonna be a resource center. I did that by myself. They're the same people the city had cleaned those two houses out that they said you'd never get them cleaned out, and when they got the container, they got it done in 1 day or 2, which goes to show you that somebody doesn't know what they're not talking about, but I said they could get it done in 2 days, and they did. But then the city did a turnaround, and they went over to Dick Jordan's house property instead. So I thought this was all lined up. I didn't know until I saw this packet that you were trying to burn 127. I already knew Morgan Street was going down, but not 127. When I asked for the keys last week, because I asked Yvonne for some keys, and everybody was sick with COVID, yabba dabba, that's fine. I'm easy to get along with, so don't say I haven't tried. If the city would have given me a listing for 30 days, I would have had people in here. But it's pretty hard to do when you go home at night, and then you go out and you call people, but you have to be careful because you don't have a listing. I mean, it's, I know people who do that all the time, and it's not a good thing to be doing in real estate. So I try to follow the rules. But I did just talking to people without having great access and or authority from the city to really do it, trying to take all the legal channels, which I did, pussyfooting around a lot of it, so that I could try to bring something to at least salvage that one building. But that bid that those guys gave us, they would have stuck to. In fact, they said would start working on it. And I also got some guff that they said they could get it done in 2 months, and somebody goes, they can't get that done in 2. Who are you to say anything when you're not a licensed and bonded contractor? I don't get it. I don't get it. If you're not in the profession, you don't have a license, you don't really have the authority to be counteracting somebody who, in fact, they came to a city council meeting. So I have tried my best with having both my hands and feet tied, Jim, but I respect the fact that you think I did kind of wait till the last minute today because I got other things to do in my life, but I'm trying to help bring something to the council on my own time, like I'm not busy enough.
Do you wanna sell it to these people, or do you want them to fix it up?
I would sell it to them. And then the money that the city would get, then you could use to either hopefully flatten out the lot. And I think it should be used for extra parking down the road. Could you sell it later? Yeah, you could. But there's too many people that like that little house. And they like the concept of having a drive-up window while I'm at it.
Drive-up window?
Yeah, you guys were worrying about the lady over there on the Huntley parking lot. You don't need to relocate anybody, but this would be like, they were thinking of using it as a service. It's a nonprofit to where the upstairs was used and the downstairs, but it doesn't really matter because they're gonna pay for it and fix it on their own grant money and their time, within a reasonable amount of time, because they said the city's kind of tired of looking at Morgan Street, which I'm pretty sure is gonna get fired up anyway.
It's already been approved to be burned down. But 127, it's a cute little house, I like the house. But if you look at all the pictures in here.
But I'm a realtor, and I'm gonna tell you that don't mean jack. I understand, it's a great selling tool if you're trying to get something, when a buyer's trying to get it from the seller really cheap, but there's too many other things that you can overlook, and we all know that. We all know that. If you're representing the buyer, you wanna look at those pictures. If you're representing the seller's hoping that, they're gonna see the true facts of what the property has the potential of being.
And have you seen where that house sits within the lot. It's about, this far from the property line.
If the city could either do a lot line adjustment,
Point of order, he has his hand up.
well,
You
can
guys-
okay, then I'll stop, fine.
Go ahead, Benny.
We're already in a federal violation with that house. We have broken asbestos siding laying on the ground. The nails are working loose on that siding. The siding, if it's gonna stay, has to be reset, which is probably not a good idea. I'll probably create more siding as they're doing that. So anyway, we are in violation right now. You walk around, you'll see broken siding on the ground, which makes it, when it broke, it was friable. I don't know, we're skating a thin line here, in my opinion. Somebody wants to push that.
I'm ready to move on and call for a vote unless anybody has any objection to that. Right.
I just wanted to restate the motion.
To burn that house, learn to burn that house, flatten those lots.
Both the Morgan and the mill.
The one's already blown.
Just to be clear, there will be some costs with that one because there is the asbestos to mitigate.
Yeah.
Okay, just throw that out there.
But there's no lead or any other costs to do, so it's just the asbestos. Okay, all right, unless there's anything else, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All right, all in favor? Okay. All opposed? Okay, that passes. Okay, moving on. So, topic 3, legal Oregon cities legislative priorities. So, Ron, you have our counts.
I do.
Okay.
And, the top 3 vote getters was the infrastructure funding, that had a total of 8. The employment, land, readiness, and availability, that had a total of 3. And the address energy affordability challenges from rising utility costs, that had a total vote of 4.
Okay, so we've got 3 for sure. So
Yes.
we just need to pick 2 from some of the ones that got 2 votes.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch that had 2.
Yeah. I don't know who was first. Liz?
I just, 2 of you voted for the road user fee, and I would like, Roxy and Denny, I'd like to know what that is. I need more information on that, cause I may vote for that. If the city gets a road user fee and it's money in the city offer, I'd like to know what that is.
Roxy, do you know? You know?
This will help, Sheridan. First of all, this is a revenue. We will get money for this.
Right.
This, of all of these items, there were only 3 that were revenue, and this is one of them. And this one will probably get us the most money.
Okay.
So, it's a combination of retrieving road mileage from, electronic vehicles, and other ways for us to get funding from the state, for our roads.
So do you, Roxy or Denny, do you know exactly how it gets implemented? Like, are we like charged yearly or is it?
I believe the owners of the cars, either there's a monitor system on the vehicle. I know truck driving, we have GPSs that tell all our mileage, where we've been, and what highways we were on. And the highway department then, or the state, then adds that all up and we get taxed for that. An electric car doesn't get taxed for nothing. You and I paying gasoline, we're paying for the roads. They're driving on them, but we're paying for them.
They're burning up on them.
I have an interesting thing to just add to that. I just paid my tax because I own a hybrid. And there is now, when you pay for your new tags for your car, there is a new fee on there for an electric/hybrid vehicle that I paid for that. So it should trickle down to us somehow, that's all I'm saying.
Alright, so I'm gonna look at that.
Okay, Ian?
I would point out that this will add the ability for the government to track your movement.
Well, our phones do that. I mean,
Well,
I mean,
you-
they are
how to
anytime.
mitigate that, which is
Yeah.
quite easy. So, I mean, this is metadata that's gonna be generated about our driving capabilities and habits, which is just something to know, I suppose.
So it would be tracking, it wouldn't be like when you go to renew your tags, you have to report what your odometer reading is or anything like that.
No, they would already know.
Okay. Well, that's something to keep in mind. Does anybody, any other thoughts, Roxy, do you have something?
No, it's just that I was hoping that we would at least choose one of them that was a revenue increase. That's gotta be funny,
I
people.
know, that's
So-
why I asked about it.
So of the ones that we've got to, operator, and training apprentices, ship and gas tax, we talked about that. 2025 transportation fee, alcohol tax and marijuana tax. So we need to pick two. Do we have any suggestions on which two?
I voted for alcohol tax. A lot of people drink it. Might generate some funds.
Well, if we're trying to keep the voting even, what we should probably do is have Denny reallocate his one vote.
Oh, I see.
Denny has one vote that didn't make the cut, Jim has one vote that didn't make the cut, and Lucy has one vote that didn't make the cut.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if we take out the ones that only had one vote.
Well, wouldn't,
But I have
what
two
about
votes.
Buckle, what about Jim and Roxy right here on this one? 'Cause it's the same thing. Oh, I see what you're saying, never mind. That's one of the
Leaving
twos.
all of the twos.
Okay, never mind.
I didn't.
Gotcha, okay.
Oh, okay.
So that might make the decision for us. Heidi?
I just had a very good conversation, Cale and I did with the sheriff on Friday, and we learned that there is a lot of tourism that comes to Yavapai County, and we know that, but lots of tourism that comes to the state for alcohol, so that.
I
For
don't
alcohol,
do
yeah,
that.
wine and beer, and there's lots of
Yes.
distilleries now these days too, so that is a place where sometimes it doesn't always hit the Oregonian as much as it hits the tourist.
So-
That's
so-
right.
There is a lot of tourism for alcohol.
So I guess I'm just confused on how the alcohol tax works. Now,
Yeah.
I thought that it all went to the state, or is it state, it stays locally, is that what actually happens?
No, so everything that's purchased goes into a big pot at the state, and then it gets allocated out based on the city's population.
So this is just raising, is this the alcohol tax, that already exists, so
It
this
is
is
for
raising the
raising,
tax?
isn't it? Is this mine? I'd have to look back, but it is, I thought it was.
State revenue, is it distributed with the state revenue funds?
Yeah, I think the alcohol tax was to increase it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
well-
what you're
Same with
seeing over
marijuana.
time is there's a decrease in the amount that people are getting for cigarettes. And the other one is gas taxes going down. So they're thinking, why would we increase necessarily in cigarette tax and increase more in the ones that people are using, which is marijuana, or is alcohol. The marijuana tax was shifted dramatically around when Measure 110 happened, because a good chunk of the money that was once coming into cities, and cities after a few years started counting on it, that revenue was shifted over to pay for Measure 110
Right.
stuff, so a lot of mental health.
Right. Exactly.
Anyway,
Okay, all right,
that's what it is about.
Denny, go ahead.
I'd like to move on one vote,
Okay,
and let's put it on the marijuana tax.
okay. So Yvonne, you go.
Marijuana, Denny?
Marijuana or alcohol?
Marijuana on it.
I think
So
it's
now,
marijuana.
that one's got 3. Jim or Lucy, do you wanna move one of yours?
Yeah, let's go to alcohol, so we have our syntaxes lined up.
Okay.
Okay.
For the city.
I'll put mine on alcohol too.
Okay, so we got our 5.
Woo-hoo.
Okay.
So,
Okay, you did it.
I'm the one that sends syntaxes, just to say I told you so.
So Lucy, you,
Like,
like
say that's
I
from
said,
revenue and she got.
we're doing gym. You had one left for, you're doing alcohol, right? And that changed that to 3.
Well, that'll technically be 4, because Lucy moved hers to that too.
You got 2 alcohol.
Which one did Lucy move?
Alcohol.
Alcohol.
But she already had alcohol.
She
She's
moved
got 2
Expanding and expanding.
Okay.
Or you got 2 on it, oh, okay.
Okay.
No, that was a good idea.
That was
Yeah, that makes
smart.
sense.
Handle it like that.
Okay, Yvonne, you got?
Yep,
So,
so we have alcohol, marijuana, and then the other 3 that we named earlier.
Okay, great.
We're golden.
Okay,
But you financing.
do we have to motion to send that to LOC? I think we're probably
I
fine.
think that is the move.
Okay, all right.
Everybody drives.
All right, moving on. So we've got, new business, and the first one is term limits. And I asked Tyler about this. So Tyler, why don't you, tell us what you found out?
If the city wanted to implement term limits, it would be a charter amendment process, so it would have to first be approved by the council and then there have to be sent out to the voters. So that's how we would have to do it.
And it's too late to submit something, right? Oh, yeah. Way too late.
And the reason for that is, well,
I'm just that.
so for one, that's what the LOC recommends, and it goes in the charter. And 2, was there another reason why it has to be in the charter?
I didn't find any cities in Oregon that implemented term limits in a fashion that was not amending the charter.
Okay. So there's nobody's having a resolution that's standing
That
in the charter.
is too great of a concern for the general voters. That's why, I think, is because it affects every voter, essentially, we want to be able to weigh into such a thing. So it goes into a city's charter instead of just the whim of the city council being able to vote on their own term limits, which you would see in an ordinance, right? This is something that you don't want the own group to be able to decide on. This is something that you want the voters as a whole to be able to decide how they want their government to look. Does that make sense philosophically?
So we can do that. The only thing is that there's other things in the charter that we would want to open up. So I wonder, is this just like the discussion of how do we want to tackle the charter changes?
That's one of the goals,
So,
isn't it?
I think so. Ian, do you have something?
I would say that there are cities that do refer this term limits to the voters, and have recently, including the city of Wilsonville in 2024.
Yeah, and that was be added to the charter, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess if, that's what's tough, is there's so much in there that we would like to update. I mean, we could just say term limits and then move on, and then maybe the next time add something else, or we could just have a new charter and then have it go to the voters, but I don't know how that would go.
Wait, just as a point of reference, Carlton just did that in 2020.
Which one?
They rehauled their whole charter, so. It's kind of strange.
I think we're going to get the people to vote for that.
I think there's like 3 cities in the whole state that redid their charter.
Okay, it's Jim or Denny, did you have something?
I was gonna go along with what you said, start with this one and just keep on trucking. Next vote we have, okay, pick on this.
Okay, Heidi?
One of the things you could do is start a charter review committee. I mean, it is one of the goals in the council booklet, and so those that wanted to do that could set up the time to do that.
I could.
The LOC has a model charter booklet or whatever you would call it, that it does give some guidelines to go forward with.
I'm trying to think if I should do that now or if I should ask for volunteers tonight or wait till next meeting. I don't know. I guess it depends. Is a charter review something we want to get into right now? I don't know who had their hand up first, Roxy or Ian.
My question was, do we want to change the term limits?
Well, that is a good question. I know it was brought up for a discussion point, so.
I know it was brought up. for
Yeah, so
discussion,
I guess
but
that
just
would,
because one person brought it up, I'm just wondering if the whole council was interested in changing.
that's true. What do people think about term limits? I know what I think about federal term limits,
Yeah, me too.
local
Supreme
non-paid,
Court or?
well, local non-paid, you know, volunteer term limits is a little bit different. I mean, I think at some point you gotta have some sort of limit, it's just finding what that could be, but, all right, who wants to go first? Danny?
Thank you for pointing that out, I brought it up. I think 17 years is too long. I think you've got your own agenda half the time. I think to change the body up a little bit, get some fresh minds in here, to where they're thinking a little bit different than us old folks, you know. I think that's important. I think this is a place where younger people should start coming to this and getting involved, because this is gonna be their city soon. I'm not gonna be around much longer, per se. That's what's gonna develop. Like, I'll never see Sheridan Road. I'll never see something built over here. I'll never see the Heidi building done. Been waiting on that for 18 years. So I think it's important. I mean, our federal government has term limits for a reason. It doesn't always work, but they have a reason for it. I think the council should have term limits also. We have to adjust how much it is, or decide how much it is. But I think it's important that the public sees a little change up, because I tell you that the concept of the good old boys club goes around as long as people sit on the council. That's what I'm saying.
Tyler, do you know, some of those cities that you looked at, do they have, like, so like Wilsonville, for example, Ian, I don't know if did you see, do you know what their term limit is that they just added?
It says you would imagine it to be, it's like 2 terms.
2 terms, okay.
Yeah.
Does that include, that includes everybody, mayor, council members? Okay. Cause that would be another question is, I mean, I assume mayor and council would be the same, but that's another thing to think about. Heidi?
Just as something that I've observed is that sometimes local government isn't always a popular job to take on for city council. So that's something right now, we're in a time period where lots of people have their eyes on government at all levels. But that doesn't always happen. I've been around for a while now where I've seen that only one person runs and that everybody in the city essentially had to beg somebody to be the mayor. So sometimes keep that in mind. You might be term limiting out the only person willing to do it.
Yeah, I know Amity still has
Just as a, yeah,
Amity still has a council seat open. They had one for over a year, I think now.
just as a thought.
No one wants to. Ian, go ahead.
I would just say, well, I'd say a couple things. One is that we're not the ones who are deciding whether or not term limits are happening. I think that the rest of the council here, other than Roxy, has referred businesses that are, and medical clinics here to voters to be banned in this city. So I don't see why we should keep this from the voters as well. So that's my first point. My second point is the term limits. I mean, I don't know if the people of Sheridan really want it or not. So I would say, sure, if it's come up, we should probably, refer to them to see what they want to do. And I will be your first volunteer for the charter rewriting committee.
Okay.
That makes sense about you.
Tyler, I'm still on board.
Oh, okay. Ian and Liz, is that, anybody else want to do it? I think we can only have one more. Any, you 3? Okay. Well, we'll just have to be, well, Tyler can tell you about what you can and can't do. I'm just assuming that you can't, if you involve another one of us, then we're getting into public meeting law trouble. I think. Okay. We got it, because I know when I started, that was the one thing. It was like, yeah, that's the big, SDC fees. But it sounds like we can have a look at the starting point, right? LOC, and then go from there. So that sounds good. So, all right, great. We move on to the next topic.
Fluoride.
Yep. Okay. So fluoride. So, me and Ian went up to the water plant and took a look. And Heidi has said before, if you want to take a trip to the 70s or the 80s, you can go up there. It was really cool to see how it works. But one of the parts is we did see how the fluoride part works. And so my question, I guess, is what do we you know, cause has come up as a topic, trying to see like, what do we wanna do? I think there's been some cities like Willamette who has had the council do the decision. There's other cities where that goes to the voters. Oops. Or do we just wanna have a discussion and talk about, what do we wanna do? Or what are we thinking? So that's where I'm at now. So what do people think? I know Lucy's brought it up, and then I know Ian's discussed it too. I'm not sure if everybody's, aware of, fluoride and why and all that stuff, but, Jim, do you wanna go ahead?
Well, this is a topic that some people are very passionate about.
Mhm.
And on both sides. So, again, I don't think it's necessarily up to us to say, okay, we decided, you people are not gonna get any fluoride. And then the people that want it are like, well, geez, I didn't even say anything about it. And then switch it around. We're gonna say, no, we're gonna keep the fluoride in because we've already got it set up. Geez, I wanted to have a chance to say, I don't want that in my water.
One thing that would be a plus is if we didn't do it, and it's a council decision, is it would save us money. Not a crazy amount, but money. I don't know who was first. Ian, you wanna go? Okay, Ian, go ahead.
I would point out to you that the government here in town holds a monopoly on the water supply to this town. And we are essentially holding the city hostage with the fluoride in that manner, because to filter the fluoride out of the water, you need to purchase expensive filters to remove it from the drinking water, which I know about because I purchased them. And the fact that there is known issues from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services National Toxicity Program about fluoride affecting pregnant women and their children, and that is a big deal in our town because we have, and primarily Caucasian, low-income people consume tap water, that's statistically speaking, and that is basically the population of our city. That we're not allowing those low-income pregnant mothers in our cities another opportunity to drink unfluoridated water, safe water, in our town if we provide it in the water. And I can go on further. I mean, I have a lot of information here, but that I think should be noted that we do hold a monopoly on the water, and we're forcing people to consume it who can't afford to filter it out.
I'm not sure who was first, those are Jenny. Liz,
I honestly think that this discussion is warranted because I know there's a lot of passion on both sides, but I would like, when we have this discussion, that it's included some information, real facts and factual information are in our packet, so we have something to truly discuss, rather than hearsay or our opinions. I would rather that we table this fluoride discussion till we actually have some real information. Because it said, we added this in, but we don't have, I mean, yes, you've done some research, but I'd like to see some research. I'd like to see the pros and cons of having fluoride in the water before we actually have a discussion.
The tough thing with that is that there is a lot.
Well,
And let's say both, and I mean, I guess we can find, I don't know, some peer-reviewed studies or government studies or whatever the criteria may be, but, we can.
Lucy had a whole notebook from Willamette. They've done a lot of research. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, but maybe we could get some of that research and, bullet some of the main points down for the pros and cons, because I don't think we can really talk about this until we have some factual information.
Yeah, and this was kind of just what I wanted is to see what council wanted to do next steps wise, just because I wasn't exactly sure which way we wanted to go. So I think it's good that we're discussing it though, so that we get a better idea of what we want to do. But we can get information, articles, whatever. We can even try to bring somebody in. I don't know if there's fluoride experts that exist, but we could ask. So I think Denny's next.
So a couple things. The little town I grew up in that was a big town, Moscow, Idaho. But it was put to the vote of the people to put fluoride in now. discussion. But I do remember as a little kid, before fluoride was in, we got fluoride drops from the dentist. And had so many a day. Wash it around in our mouth, spit it out. So there's other options, if people want fluoride. They could probably put a fluoride injection system in their house, put it in. So it's a decision of the people. It really is. We can't make that decision for the people.
I know they sell like water jugs that it says, with fluoride, if people want that. Ian?
I think the council did have opportunities to research this, and we did ask, Lucy did ask for it to be on the next meeting, which is this meeting. And she offered the packet to everyone. Even I tried to get it like 3 times, and my schedule didn't line up with hers. So I didn't even see it, this packet, but I did all of this research in about an hour. Took me to look all this up. This is information, much of it that I have here. Some of it is just from doctors who have looked at a lot of different studies, but the top piece here is from our own government, from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and where they have, out of the 4 levels of concern, there's high, there's moderate, there's low, and there's very low. And they classify sodium fluoride, which is what we put into our water here in Sheridan, and this is the safety data sheet this is the information about the product that we put into our water, sodium fluoride. Anyway, the U.S. Department of National Health and Human Services lists it that they have moderate confidence, which is the second highest level, that the studies that they went over 50 studies, they had found that this is studies of mothers and their babies, both before and after birth, that took into account many different things, including whether or not they were drinking tap water or other things like that. And they found that 1.5 milligrams of fluoride per liter correlated with a 3-point reduction in lowering the IQ of the children. And so the problem isn't necessarily that children are getting fluoride, and it is in fact shown that fluoride is quite beneficial to developing teeth in the long run. However, for adults, for children who have now, young adults, this has a minimal impact. This is what this study is saying from our own government. And so, it's not like we have, that alone, I could go into all the other things. Fluorosis is caused by too much fluoride, not to mention that products like this and all products that you purchase in the store all have fluoride in them, because it's made with water from municipalities that put fluoride in their water. So we're putting fluoride into the water, and these folks are getting it in their tap, they're getting it at the grocery store, and they're getting it out of their toothpaste tubes. And the topical application of fluoride to teeth is there's not really an argument there. It is good for teeth, topically applied, but there's no evidence that internally taking it is beneficial in any way. Only the opposite has been found in the very few studies that are out there. So just keep that in mind. I would point out that it will also save us quite a bit of money in the city by changing the rating of our water plants. The less that we have to do, if I understand this correctly, the less that we have to do there as far as additions and other things, it increases our water level rating. And if we remove fluoride from the water, it will take our notch down a level, in which case we can then increase other things like our SCADA system that's going in. It's going to increase our level. We need to remove something anyway to stay at a level 2 plant. In the long run, we'll still be at a level 2 plant, I believe, with the SCADA system.
If we put the SCADA system on with the fluoride, it'll bump us to a 3.
Okay, I was wrong. So it'll bump us us to a level 3, which will increase our costs in employees and how much we pay them in benefits, and also we have the cost of the fluoride to consider. It's very expensive. It's also a hazardous material, which I would actually point out, it's toxic as swallowed right here on the CT data sheet. Of course, that's if you take it in that full pure form, but we'd also save in PPE gear, which the city, Joe, I believe, has to put on a gas mask and basically a chemical suit to go into this tiny room. It's like a 5x3 room that has one barrel in it, and the access is only from the outside because of how caustic this is. If it were to spill and go inside the building, it would be a disaster. So, you know, if we want to get the fluoride treatment to the children, I think we should probably look at ways that we could encourage children to apply the fluoride topically. And I know there's lots of places that do provide free toothpaste to public use. So that would be, those are just some few things to consider, I would suppose.
Especially with with Virginia Garcia coming in, I'm sure they would provide, additional. I don't know. I think nationwide, I think it's added 88% of the water, but a lot of Oregon doesn't have it.
Yeah.
2/3 of the water.
2/3 of it. Okay, so less than 88%. But yeah, here in Oregon, we've got a lot that doesn't add it, especially Portland, which I don't know if they've ever added it. And I know that keeps going to the voters, and they keep saying no, so they don't want it. But obviously, we're not Portland. Liz, go ahead.
Thank you for the information, that's what I wanted to hear. I know where I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, in elementary school, you swigged it every day. They brought it in on a tray and everybody, if your parents signed the permission, well, that's how, with the their teeth, that's how children got the fluoride to protect their teeth, but the adults weren't exposed to it, it wasn't in the water system. So that's the type, and it just doesn't sound like it does anything for adults, so I need that kind of information, thank you.
Some of that information, I mean, it sounds like you Googled it and you found some info. Would you be willing to share some of those links with the rest of the council? I mean, I could just also ask everybody to Google it themselves, but if you want to.
It's easier if you share the links.
But Ian, that would be up to you if you'd like to share, just so we know what you're looking at too. But I know it sounds like the big one, yeah, is that U.S. Health and Human Services. Is that what you said?
Yes.
From that one, yeah.
National Toxicity Program.
Heidi.
If you decide to send it to the voters, you probably would want to think about putting some links or some information
Yes.
for people on the website.
And we can discuss this more, but I guess what are, we might want to wait until everyone's, been able to research it more. But because I was going to ask if people thought, it should be a voter decision or an us decision, but we can also discuss that further. Ian, what do you think?
I could provide you with the information. I can provide the council with the information that I've looked at. I would prefer to, I think that there's enough folks here now that they would be willing to remove it immediately. I would like to point out one more thing, if it's all right with the council. First of all, the US is one of the only places in which this happens. 3% of Europe puts sodium fluoride in their water. That you can actually purchase and apply. You can purchase at any store calcium fluoride, which is a very safe product, much different than sodium fluoride, because fluorine is gas which binds to something, and so it binds to salts or metals. And so in our case, sodium fluoride is what we're putting into our water, which has not been studied very much. Calcium fluoride has been studied somewhat, and it is found to be a much safer product topically applied.
Do you know why they would choose, let me just say, the more dangerous of the two?
Yes, I do. Thank you. The reason why they choose that is because sodium fluoride is dissolvable in water and calcium fluoride is not.
Okay.
So, and then I guess I would say that it is The last thing I wanted to say is the thing that really struck me and it really kind of, because I've always thought about this as being something that I'd like to see happen. But the more I thought about it, the more I was actually a little bit shocked and upset by it, because we're taking this caustic material that's so dangerous that Joe has to put on, a gas mask and a rubber suit to dump it into a barrel. All of that material, if you think about it, is coming out of our water system, down into the pipes, into people's homes, and a very minimal amount of that water is going into our children's mouths. The vast majority of that water is being sprayed out onto our lawns, it's going down our toilets and drains, and that fluoride that's in the water ends up in our sewage treatment plant, and it ends up in our river, and it ends up in our lawns and our gardens, and completely covering our bodies. It's soaked into our clothes. And so there's naturally occurring fluoride that is at very typically safe levels that comes out of the water, out of the ground. And so I think that, based on like what other cities have seen and done in our area alone, I think should be enough for us to say, well, I think we can make this decision ourselves and do this for the good of especially the people who are drinking the tap water and who are, I personally benefit from this, from having it not in the tap water. I'll say that for sure, because I have such an extensive garden. So, that's why I want it out of the water. But I also, I filter it out of my water specifically to protect my children.
But you can't filter it out of your shower, it's still seeping into.
Yes, you cannot, unless you do a whole house reverse osmosis, which is incredibly expensive. So I guess I would move that we remove, I don't know if we have to make a resolution to remove the water, or
Be an ordinance, it's in our.
to write an ordinance.
So if,
To repeal the ordinance.
so if that's something that council wants to do, we can bring that forward, a repeal of it, next meeting. Are we
Are you there?
are we ready, or do people wanna, research, read more, or, I know Ian's probably gonna share, but,
I don't want it.
okay. Well, then,
Yeah, now that I've heard even
No, I
this
didn't
small
before.
amount of research, it's scary.
so Tyler, is that something we can do?
Not next meeting, cause that's a week from today.
Okay. What about October? Work session,
Special session.
special session.
I won't be here, but I can have the ordinance ready by then.
Okay.
Then I'd like to amend my movement to postpone this until Tyler has made the appropriate accommodations for the council to readdress this at a later date, which I believe hopefully is in October. So, I make that move, that we postpone it until that time.
Second.
Any discussion on it? Okay, alright, call for a vote then, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Tyler, that's all of you. Okay,
No, no.
I'll put together something and send it out to the council to try to.
okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, so next, work session topics and discussion, purchasing, presentation, Heidi. I believe Heidi, were you, this is the topic you were going to provide us with materials and suggest that we have
Yeah.
a,
Well, in the interest of the time, and we all know I can talk a lot, one of the things that Cale and I discussed earlier today was that essentially what I have studied and done a deep dive research project, and I can go on and present a lot of information, but I think it would be best off if we had a small group that helped to create and recommend some policies to the council for both what we've been talking about a lot is local, supporting local businesses, but we've also been talking about it in a way that is actually called shop small. And that's what I want us to talk about. There's a lot to talk about once you start getting into the weeds, down into the rabbit holes, which is how far do we take this? Where do we take this? How, what do we consider local, right? But I am quite pleased with what I had found. I have found that for the most part, we do actually do a lot of purchasing. And the Southside Park in particular has brought a lot of purchases into the local community. And we've been able to use quite a few local contractors, which I think is really nice for people to be able to get that work, because those are people that live and work in our community. So that's really nice. But I am never opposed, if you guys are looking for somebody to be an arguer and a fighter, you're not gonna find it in me. As I get older, I'm getting more exhausted, actually. So, but if you, well, wait till you see me in a few more years. But I am just not interested in being that kind of a city manager. And so if we would like, Cale and I have thought about this, which I think would be a good activity for all of us for a small group to develop. And I asked Cale to appoint some city councilors, and I asked one budget committee member today, and that person that Cale and I had thought would be a good one is unavailable. So we're gonna try to find a budget committee member who is willing to participate. And I thought a staff person, or a finance person, so that they understand what they're looking for in the invoices up front too. And a person from Public Works and a person from the library. And we all get together and we hammer out some of these big, long questions, because nobody wants to see my huge, long list or my presentation. It's exhausting, I can guarantee it. So let's just do it in a small group, and let's get this hammered out and come back to the council with some things that we can all agree upon. And I think that sounds like the best way to tackle all of this. And Cale, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, as far as council and the committee, I was thinking Denny and Liz, if that works for both of you, if you're interested. Working on that, okay. And then
On purchasing,
developing a policy for the city on purchasing,
Yeah, purchasing local and small shops, purchasing, and just talking about what it means to look local, which ones of our purchases can be actually done local, which ones cannot be. And I think that we can incorporate Denny's thinking, if he's on there too, for about the limits of people. What do you think, Denny?
Yes.
Okay, so that takes care of the rest of the agenda.
No,
Okay, unless.
all right, okay.
Oh, if you have more to say, obviously, but I have not been
Not you, I'm just here to state some facts.
Is this about the,
but that's the item D1.
okay, so Denny, is yours about the staff purchasing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we need to roll back that limit. There's been some things happen since we raised the limit that I think, there's some questionable spending going on. And I think that if it had been brought to the council, it probably would not have passed. We can get into details later, but it's too much. It's too much. I'd like to see $5,000 for Heidi, and then after that, the council needs to know what it is, and we can approve it. I think we'll probably approve everything, mostly. And I'd like to see it go back to Public Works, $500. And then if there's big purchases, they need to come to the council again for approval. Even if it's in the budget, we need to see where this money's going. There's been some money go that, like I say, I think if it would have came to the council, it wouldn't have happened. That's all I got to say.
Okay, Jim, go ahead.
This committee that we're working on could also discuss that rather than having a round robin at 9:30.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that would be part of the committee too. Heidi, what is the current limit for,
Does Jim want to join the committee too?
Jim, do you want to join the committee?
Dive into the
yeah, in
You-
fact,
you
he
like-
can take my place because he's the financial whiz kid in this group, and I am not.
Jim, do you want to take?
I don't, I'll tell you why, Liz. I have no background in financing whatsoever.
But you're
It's all self-taught. All I do is look through these sheets, and I've been doing it for 7 years now, before I was even on the council, to see what it is, where the money's going. So I don't have any background to go with that, other than I just look at the pieces of paper and look at, yes,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was gonna say, is you
Yeah.
have been doing that,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of
Yeah.
what, I mean, if you say no, that's fine, but.
Let's just say, is there anybody else that would like to?
I don't.
I hear crickets, oh, there we go.
Roxy? Ian, do you have a question or you wanna be on it?
I don't wanna be on it, but I'll do it if it's necessary.
I'll be on it.
Well, we can have 3.
Okay.
So,
So
if
do
he
you,
wants to do it.
Jim, do you wanna not be on it more than
I
Ian?
would prefer not to, yeah.
Okay.
Roxy,
Okay, so
like
then-
to?
Roxy, Denny, and Ian.
Okay.
Where it's landing.
Okay, thank
Does
you.
that work?
Yeah, works for me.
Okay. And then, yeah, and the part of individual staff, that can be part of it too.
Yeah, and we'll send out like a survey for our meeting times.
Okay,
I do it.
well, anything else on that then? Or can we move on? Okay,
They have too many late nights.
alright, we move on
I
then.
gotta get home to my dog.
Second, public comment period, have you got anything? Oh,
Joe?
No, please, I wanna go home.
okay, mayor and council discussion. I'm just gonna give an update, what have I been doing? Oh, Friday, we're gonna meet, me and Liam, Heidi are gonna meet with Abishaw. It's kinda like the starting point for the industrial lands. Study, I guess, is what you would call it, with Sector. I have a mayor's survey out, I think it's due soon.
It was due last week.
Great. I forgot. So I did that. Let's see, what have I,
Last week.
I think I was trying to recruit or talk to somebody about something. It's late, I can't remember what I've been doing.
Cale does a lot.
You think of anything? Are you
Well,
saying a
you
lot?
had a meeting with
The brewery.
you had Cale is actively trying to fill vacant commercial lands. He basically is turning over every rock, and he engages with realtors and tells them why Sheridan is great, and he does, it takes a lot of time, and he does a very good job of that, so. He also is a very good advocate for the city of Sheridan, like with, we check in with the sheriff's office and make sure that we're getting what we should be getting with that, and Cale is a very good listener to the community too. He
We're-
listens to people a lot.
We're gonna try and attend, I guess I can just talk about the MAC Chamber.
Yes.
I did, yeah,
See,
so
you
we're,
said all these things.
we're gonna try and attend the MAC Chamber of Commerce meeting and say, hey, we've got 4 commercial buildings for sale here, who wants to come and expand it? Sheridan. I had that idea a while ago and
That's a great idea.
no buildings were for sale yet, and then like in a month, 4 are for sale, so
That's-
that seems like a good time to go.
Yeah, That's a very good idea.
Yeah, we meet in a week, I can.
We're working on the town hall.
Tell the
So
diner
save
to
the
come
date.
here.
We did have an art group meeting, and, my thought is to have like basically an art contest in town, and, my thought was to use one of our, community, project grant slots, that $500 to award the winner of the city, like logo design, like whoever we pick, for the winner, would get that $500 would be like a prize. And I think the thought is.
Out of the community grant.
Yeah, and I think that the thought, I can't remember exactly what we decided, but I think the thought would be the community would vote on like the top 3 or the best for each category. Liz, do you remember?
Yeah, we had 3 categories,
Yeah.
right?
So there's like the best of 3 categories and then like best overall or something like that. But anyways, those top ones would then come to the council and we would pick our new city logo. And hopefully I can start that maybe sometime in October. I wanna have it open for a while, so, it'll give people an opportunity. And it doesn't have to be computer, they can just draw it on paper and then submit it. Probably other stuff, but I think that's enough. Danny, I think you were first.
I got 2 things here. The chip road looks nice, and it's pretty good in most spots, but for Hill Street, to Ball. It looks pretty, but it's just about as rough as it was before they put it down. I mean, you bounce all over the place. I think where Lucy goes is pretty good, but, from there on, take a drive. Especially if you got a 3/4 ton pickup, you're all over the place. But the other one is, where's the fire truck that we had for Stony Mountain?
It's here.
Why isn't it used?
Used for what?
To go to Stony Mountain and do the work up there and then that fire, that's what it was for.
Yes. I understand.
Okay.
Denny, what'd you say, Ball Street to where?
To Hill.
Hill, okay. Okay, all right. Ian,
The one complaint that I took this last period was from a woman who tripped on the sidewalk outside of our library between the bus stop and the front door, which I took the liberty of going down to look at, and it's extremely flat. There is a portion of it that's kind of chunky. So I don't know if there can be anything done about that, but that should probably be looked at. I don't know.
We could chip seal it.
Well, I was gonna say, that's the second thing that I looked at, which is the chip seal right outside the library, closely, closely because I was waiting there. And, to be honest, it does not look that great, so maybe we could, I don't know, find a secondary person that does chip seal. I don't know. So, not the greatest.
great, Liz,
I'm piggybacking on that. I had someone approach me and say that they had a job in paving and they thought the chip sealing job we were doing was secondary, that it was not a very good job, and they were quite concerned about it. They didn't think it would last. They said it's, right now, when you drive over it, it's really hard on your cars, and they were complaining about it.
Can I ask a follow-up on the chip seal?
Sure.
We need to know a little bit more from people. So is it because it is a chip seal, which is secondary to everything? Or is it because the chip seal itself by those contractors is subpar? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that
I'll ask.
I need to know that, because chip seal itself is really not great. That's why it's substantially less money.
Okay, I'll ask.
Yes, thank you.
I don't know who was up first, Ian or Denny, but Ian, do you wanna go?
I'll just say that, I am not a chip seal expert at all, but I've seen chip seals done before, and they were better than this one, at least where I was looking. But again, I'm not a chip seal expert, it just looks like the crap to me, and I've been in utility work my whole life, so.
They don't, they're usually used on county roads, but that's what we can.
It's
think they-
great on some of the kind of roads out here.
I think they did, on, Red Prairie a couple years ago.
Yeah.
That's what I thought was, Denny?
So there's actual ruts for that section I'm talking about.
Oh, from, okay, yeah, along the hill, okay.
Yeah, right outside the library.
Okay, Roxanne, I think you're next.
And chip seal needs time and heat. It needs time for the small rock to get embedded down into the oil. And traffic helps, so those things, and you have a city street that doesn't get a lot of
I have to.
traffic, it'll take more time. I'm not saying it's gonna be great, but it'll be better if we're a little patient with it, and we continue to have some hot weather. My concern, it happened to myself, was the only reason I brought it up, otherwise I might have called ahead of time or enough time, but does the Sound Broadband pay us an annual internet franchise fee?
They do have a franchise, yes.
Does it Sound have it, or does Wave pay for it?
Oh.
Usually franchise fees will say like whatever it is to begin with and say any of its future purchases or subsidiaries or something.
Yeah, I think that's
The language.
the same.
Yeah, they bought.
Why do you,
So do we get a financial statement from every company showing their sales that are based on what we get?
what the revenue is and what our percentage of the franchise is?
Okay.
We used to, back in the day when I used to do this
Yeah,
part of the job, but
I know, I don't see when they post it. So when they come in, when those checks come in, they usually come with a letter saying this is the,
quarter one, quarter
yeah,
two.
and then they post it, and then they put it in a folder down in the drawer, you know, in the file, but I haven't seen them.
I got a bill from Astound personally, and there was a $16.93 internet infrastructure fee on my September bill. PGE doesn't even charge that much for a franchise fee. So I called them, and of course you get I was on hold for an hour because nobody knew what I was talking about. Nobody knew what I was asking. I was told that Astound does not pay any franchise fees. So I thought this is another source of revenue. And I think we need to check into all of our franchises and to see if we're getting our fair share, because I think even Recology admitted that they did not get us our fair share the last time that they were here.
So usually what can happen is, cities can call for more of a percentage of franchise fee, but what happens is that is passed over to, people's bills. So it is a way for cities to bring in revenue into their own coffers, but you're essentially taking it from the people in the city.
But I asked them if they were paying any, and they said they weren't.
The only franchise, the only, yeah, it sounds like.
But I know, and I know that.
The utilities that we do not get any franchise fee from are the ones that use the air. So, like, what is that internet called that goes through?
Satellite.
Yes. You use air, so you have to be in a right of way in order to get a franchise fee from them.
So being like a radio station.
Someone else.
Well, I guess that's probably different. That's not a utility. Yeah, never mind.
See, it's getting some. But I have a couple of accounts.
Even though this wasn't supposedly franchise fee, that was 20% of my whole bill.
Yeah, I think I'll look into that a little bit closer, because I don't think anybody's getting that.
There's definitely,
Somebody is.
cable TV franchises in our budget that we earn revenue from that.
And dish for you.
Yeah, we also have Comcast and a couple others that are in there too.
There's PG, and there's Northwood Natural Gas, and there's telephone, and there's.
So the South Park side part is, I received a message from Public Works from Sandy and Kenny is gonna be closed, for this, was it this whole week, you know, Gary? Or did you hear from them? Yeah, so it's gonna be closed for, Public Works has not had the time to go and do the backfill along the asphalt and the pathway. Both have significant drops and present tripping hazards, and the parking lot asphalt could break if driven on the edges. So I received that message from, Kenny and Sandy, today, and it says, she says it will be reopened on September 17th, but it is looking amazing over in there. And let's see, so the other thing is I need to notify everybody that the recycle center has had an uptick in all kinds of dumping that has happened.
I saw mattresses.
Yeah, and it's costing the city time and money to remove all of that, and it's getting ridiculous. So we're gonna close it down for a while, for on the weekends, and it will just be limited to Monday through Friday from 8 AM to 4 PM, so we can have somebody close it up, and that's what it used to be. And we're gonna have to go back for a while. Today I showed, Cale and Jim a whole bunch of
Disgusting pictures.
disasters of things that are happening, and they happen even during the daytime. We have people that are doing, things in there, so I know.
Yeah, let's, put it in first, go ahead.
Do we have cameras at the?
We do, and we send police to the people's houses, and some of them have been trespassed, and they just keep doing it.
Are we able to, is there something within the code that we can have Angela levy against these people who are dumping in our city?
We sure do, and we're going to be working with Tyler. You met with Angela today to take down the litter, not today, but we have a whole thing for Tyler to look at for tightening the litter. Yes, so we're gonna hopefully close it down for a while, the shenanigans will quit, hopefully. And then we'll be able to gradually see where we are. Another idea I have is to have the park host close it up that night after we get that position. So all kinds of things that we're trying to consider for this, but I know people love it. It is used so heavily, and it's mostly used for good. But when it is not used well, it's a lot of work. And it's a lot of work to even track down the naughty that happens over there, the behavior.
Heidi, real quick, Liz does.
I was just gonna piggyback, I go to the community garden quite frequently, and I have noticed all the piles of like mattresses, and it looks like furniture, chair oil.
Paint, and I don't know what, all of a sudden the.
It looked like there was a little stove over there, I was like, what the heck is going on? So, yeah.
So we're just gonna shut it down for a little while, reduce the hours, not completely get rid of it, but reduce it. I know people have said they've had complaints about the chip seal. We've actually had people call here and thank us too. And so it's a real mixed bag, I think. Gary had somebody who usually, isn't always happy with the things the city does, pull him over and tell them thank you. And so that was refreshing as well. So I'm gonna go and drive all of it and see if it's just in parts, and maybe it's something that we can get them to come back and address, or we'll keep going on this, okay? Let's keep looking at it. Okay, that's all of everything that I have.
Okay, Denny?
I make a motion. You go away.
Okay. All right.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Probably not.
Let's go home.
All right, we're adjourned at
Well, Denny, you know what they say,
9:48.
you don't have to go home.
If you'd like, I can show you what I was talking about.
Well, you know.
I'm a library.
Library.
Yeah, I thought maybe meet me over there, but yes, I saw the
I
picture.
was surprised